Hello everyone. We hope you're doing well. We're doing great, and we truly appreciate your ongoing support. We'd like to briefly address some comments regarding our audiobook series. Rest assured, progress is ongoing. That said, your feedback is vital. If there's a novel you particularly enjoy and want to hear more of, please let us know in the comments. Each chapter requires a financial investment, so we can only continue series that receive strong audience interest. Although we retain core names and plot lines, we make significant editorial changes to enhance clarity, pacing, and immersion. These are not simple recitations. We work hard to deliver a polished, thoughtful listening experience. Without sufficient feedback or engagement, we may need to discontinue a series. So if you're enjoying something, don't stay silent. Your input truly matters. Note, our default audio speed is 3x. If that's too fast, let us know. We're happy to adjust it. Interested in early access to unreleased audiobooks? Visit our Patreon. You'll get to experience new content before it reaches YouTube. Just to clarify, I'm a fan like you. I've purchased these novels and adapted them with care, while respecting all rights and guidelines. For updates, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: Shattered Innocence transmigrated into a novel as an extra. Transmigrating over 10,000 years late, I was forced to become a mighty presence. I, the celestial dragon, rule the heavens through the double gate, reigning supreme in countless worlds with peace taming, Tower of God sequence strength, cultivation when you take things to the extreme. Naruto is an Uchiha with cyst. WTF, the centuries-old ancestor in our family take concubine again. Plus 18, Ichi, reincarnated in Bleach as a wizard. Thanks for listening and happy listening. Chapter 1, Local man wallows in self-delusion after getting a pop-up. We have news of middle schoolers having an anti-furry protest near a school in the state of Utah. Jin turned the TV off, his deadpan expression showing how much faith he had lost in today's modern society. This can't be for real. With a sigh, he stood up and relaxingly stretched his body. After letting out a drawn-out yawn, he lazily walked over to his fridge to grab some food to munch on. Walking there, he suddenly turned his head to look at the calendar on his second fridge. July 16, 2024. It has almost been a week since he graduated from university. And quite frankly, he had no fucking clue what he was supposed to do afterward. He felt like an absolute outcast. Some of his classmates, whom he had been friends with since freshman year, had already sent out multiple job applications, some of which have already been accepted. Of course, there were others like him who fundamentally felt the same way. However, they didn't seem to be under the same pressure as him. Many of the lads went on vacation, while others reveled in partying, celebrating with utmost fervor. And here he was, lazing around, with no other purpose in his seemingly mundane life, whilst simultaneously watching news about anti-furry protests in the middle of the night. Fuck, I didn't hit rock bottom. Nay, he barreled through it without considering the consequences. Throughout his life, he had always lived with the motto, I will leave today's problem to tomorrow's me, and lo and behold, shit had hit the fan. Assignments? He would finish them the day before his deadline. Essays. The dog ate him. Attending classes? He might have been physically there, but mentally? Nah, he was still in La La Land. Socializing? Quality over quantity. He would rather have 2 or 3 amazingly good friends than a bunch of yes men. Yet, Jin still passed his classes with remarkable grades. Obviously, not at the top of his class nor valedictorian level, but just enough to be considered quite good. Don't know how to be honest, but I made it. He nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders, before grabbing a half-eaten sandwich and taking a bite out of it. Finally some fucking food. If it weren't for the fact that he wasn't a weirdo, he would have forcibly made his eyes roll back into his skull. While eating the sandwich, he took out his phone and scrolled through social media. Deadlifts are bad, you shouldn't be doing the don't know, seems like a skill issue to me, man. Rolling his eyes, he immediately skipped to the next clip. A girl allegedly accused of cheating on her BF, claims it was, quote-unquote for the bag, more info at my. Why was bro with her in the first place? With eyes as lifeless as a fish, he returned his phone to his pocket before releasing a weary yawn. He raised his right arm, his eyes narrowing as he squinted at the watch adorning his wrist. 11:28 p.m. Finishing his sandwich with a sigh, he strolled out of the kitchen into the dimly lit living room. He glanced back briefly to switch off the lights before heading upstairs. After finishing his nightly routine such as brushing his teeth, Enjoying a much-needed shower, and completing other mundane tasks, he finally went back to his room. Settling into his chair in front of his gaming rig, he decided to see if there was anything new to watch. Mindlessly scrolling through YouTube, with no sense of direction of what he was supposed to do whatsoever, Jin, not aware of how long it had been, suddenly realized that hours had already passed. How to make the perfect pizza. Glancing at the title, Jin decided to click on it, before realizing that something was wrong. Ran my brother in Christ. His eyes widened in sudden realization, slowly shifting away from the sight of the man mercilessly pummeling the pizza into oblivion. His gaze came to rest on the channel name, and instantly, everything clicked into place like a puzzle. How to basic. And before Jin could continue to gaze upon said majestic piece of videography, a sudden pop-up made its way onto his computer screen. This survey will change your life. The seemingly out-of-the-ordinary pop-up continued to blink, arousing one's temptation to just click on it. However, Jin was smart. Yeah. Before his brain could even comprehend his decision, his hand had already moved at an inhuman speed to click on the pop-up without hesitation. Jin's rather impromptu decision led him to an unknown website where all types of what-the-fuck questions were laid before him. Suppose you get kidnapped and transported into another world, what would you do? Please answer here, and for some odd reason, his senses were tingling. Somewhere or something at the back of his empty Oungabunga brain kept telling him that his life would truly change if he decided to answer this whole survey. As such, without a second thought, he answered the first question. Suppose you get kidnapped and transported into another world, what would you do? Sleep and laze. Proud of his answer, he continued. If a hostile army were to stand in front of you, what would you do? Please answer here. Yeah, these questions ain't worth putting my brain power into. If a hostile army were to stand in front of you, what would you do? Accept death. You are the lord of a territory, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Who the fuck decided that? Suppose you have the choice to choose a specific summon to aid you in managing your territory, who would it be? Please answer here. His eyes suddenly lit up, recalling a wealth of information from the countless hours spent watching various shows. Then, like a light bulb illuminating his mind, Jin's face lit up. Without a hint of hesitation or shame, he swiftly typed in his answer. Nero Claudius, FGO, ha. With a contented sigh, he reclined slightly in his chair. Nothing beats having the Roman Emperor himself herself take charge of the territory. Jin can already imagine that if the hypothetical situation of him getting his ass yeeted to another world would occur, Nero would probably be hellbent in her pursuit of recreating another Rome. But honestly, it's gone be fire. Quite literally. Plus, her considerable power was definitely a bonus as well. After a while, he continued looking through the survey. What compelled the user to choose Nero Claudius, a character from the game, to have her aid in the management of your territory? Why? Easy to answer. First 5-star I pulled. Also, the first character I got to bomb to level 10. Plus she ain't gonna mind if I laze about. I hope, as he reached the end of the survey, he narrowed his eyes in confusion. A spinning wheel? Seriously? Is it going to decide my fate? Some silly goober whimsical cheat type shit? With a half-mocking grin, he clicked on the wheel and gave it a spin. After a while, the spin came to an abrupt stop, its arrow pointer at a few words. Congratulations, you have received the 1000 times amplification system. Ding. Thank you for completing this survey, we sincerely wish the user an unforgettable journey across the lands. Many wishes, and may the Roman Empress be your helpful aid in your endeavors. Man, I fucking knew before he could finish his sentence, Jin fainted on the spot. Chapter 2, Local Man cheats the system after getting allegedly kidnapped. Echo. In an unknown realm where stars converged and nebulas glimmered, a man stood upon a platform, shouting at the top of his lungs. Echo. Warning. The user is advised to take a look at the panel in front. You joy-sapping husk, can't even let a man enjoy a second of quiet time. Ding. The user has been at it for 2 hours 39 minutes 45 seconds. Greater than less than with a reluctant look on his face, Jin finally decided to take a look at the panel in front of him which had been blinking non-stop for the past few hours. You have been selected as a candidate for the position of Lord. Your role entails constructing your territory from scratch, meticulously planning your resources, and, can I resign? Strategically managing every aspect of its development. Your decisions will shape the future of your domain, from infrastructure and economy to defense and diplomacy. As you embark on this journey, prepare to navigate challenges, and establish your legacy as a ruler. The fate of your territory rests in your hands, can I, however. As a distinguished lord, appearance is as crucial as intellect. A lord must possess not only managerial skills but also personal strength to not falter in the face of crisis. Therefore, every selected candidate will have a status window in front of them, allowing customization of appearance, personal skills, and traits as well as bloodlines. However, any changes beyond appearance. Personal skills, traits, bloodlines, and items will require the expenditure of karma points. These points serve as currency accumulated throughout one's life, reflecting the impact of their decisions, whether insignificant or life-changing. Character customization? That's quite interesting. An intrigued look of expectation can be seen on Jin's face. He clicked on the status window in front of him, and to his surprise, personal information panel name, Jin Walfric age, 23 race, human bloodline, not available traits, absolute passive skills, half-baked mind's eye active skills, not available combat skills, Greco-Roman wrestling, master, Muay Thai, expert, miscellaneous skills, cooking, don't ever cook, driving, journeyman, history, expert, cleaning, novice, divine arcanum, not available karma shop karma points, 951 time appearance token. Click to receive. Overall evaluation, if competence and incompetence, mostly incompetence, were to reside in a human, it would be you, okay. First of all, that's uncalled for. Second of all, how did I of all people have 950 karma points? I wouldn't even be surprised if that shit was in the negatives. Upon seeing the status window, Jin was unsurprisingly dumbfounded. Besides his trait and unusual third skill, which explained some of the peculiar occurrences he had experienced throughout his life, karma points were the last thing he expected to have acquired in such abundance. What did I even do? On a normal day, March 25, 2022, the Chosen Lord heroically saved the life of an unknown girl who was about to be abducted. In 2039, 15 years after your passing, the girl joined the Special Ops. Every month thereafter, she faithfully visited your grave, paying her respects in honor of your memory. Past my ass, you lots kidnapped me. Without consent, I demand compensation. The Chosen Lord has consented by answering the survey. Yeah, sure buddy. Besides, a hint of a smile began to grace his lips, a flicker of genuine emotion lighting up his complexion. Seems like the little lass is doing well on her own. The programmed voice was right in that regard, where it was just a normal day for him. After finishing class, he found himself relaxing in a park when he suddenly witnessed a group of men rushing past him, carrying a frightened little girl in their arms. As a result, he did what every normal human with a hint of decency would have done in that situation. Jin yanked the little girl out of their arms with abnormal speed, before he Sparta-kicked one of the guys into a water fountain. And before his accomplices could have done anything behind his back, his friends intervened by tackling the assailants to the ground without issue. We did end up on headlines as well. Hey. After feeling a bit of nostalgia while reminiscing, he decided to check the karma shop. Karma shop. Skills, skill upgrades, bloodlines, bloodline upgrades, straight upgrades, items. Seems like the Divine Arkham, or whatever it's called, is unobtainable by normal means. Probably some special conditions. Jin nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders. He first decided to check what all the skills were about. Skills, search bar, overall view, Li Xuan's martial arts, 5,000 karma points, Alpha's swordsmanship, Crimson Weave version, 10,000 karma points, heightened Mitsurugi Ryu, Flying Heaven's honorable sword style, 500 karma points, Archer's housewife skill, 100 karma points, Manju Muso, infinite image defense, 20,000 karma points. Come on, man. His face grimaced at the price of all these skills before a sudden thought occurred to him. If this works, then it's GG. Jin, without hesitation, called out. Oi, system, you there? Ding. The system is right at your service. Just to make sure, explain your functions real quick. Sure thing, host. The 1000 times amplification system's main function is to amplify the value of anything you say. Correct? Absolutely, host. Taking a deep breath, Jin could hardly contain the immense turbulence happening within at the moment. Because if what the system said was truly possible, then... System. Amplify my karma points. Right on it. 100% exclamation mark ding. Activating the 1000 times amplification system. Successfully amplified 950 karma points into 950,000 karma points. Cool down, until the host finishes his character customization. A shit-eating grin threatened to come out of his face, after seeing the huge amount of karma points. This will be fun. With barely contained jubilation, he clicked on the trait upgrades section to upgrade his Absolute Calm trait. Absolute Calm Tranquil Serenity description, an advanced form of Absolute Calm. This trait allows the user to maintain a serene and composed state of mind even during chaos. It grants near-perfect immunity to mental interference and emotional manipulation, enabling the user to remain focused and clear-headed during stressful situations. Additionally, tranquil serenity enhances the user's ability to assess and analyze their surroundings with clarity, allowing for swift and rational decision-making. Total cost, 10,000 karma points. Note: everything that has been upgraded or bought in this realm will only be applicable after transporting to the designated location. With a satisfied nod, he then clicked on the skill upgrades section. Greco-Roman Wrestling, Master, Greco-Roman Wrestling, Pioneer, Description: the pinnacle of mastery, representing unparalleled skill, innovation, and expertise in the chosen field. Only reserved for the greatest practitioners in history. Muay Thai, Expert, Muay Thai, Pioneer, Description: you know the gist of it. Half-baked Mind's Eye, True Mind's Eye. Description: an advanced form of the previous skill. A danger avoidance ability that utilizes the intelligence collected up to the current time as the basis to predict the opponent's activity and change the current situation. This is not a result of talent, but an overwhelming amount of combat experience. Total cost, 20,000 karma points. Note: the cost of skill upgrades is determined by the level of mastery required to achieve them. Man. This feeling, it's like creating a character in a MMO game but you have a cheat engine that gives you a shit ton of skill points. With a sigh, he browsed through the skill section. Sometimes my genius. It's truly frightening. Chapter 3, Local man buys space potion from kidnapper, claims it will make the Roman Empress happy. Jin had honestly lost how many hours or even days he spent looking through everything. And I bet your ass, I haven't gone through a fraction of it. As he had found a bit prior, this karma shop had everything in it. Excluding all the Omni-type abilities, you could literally make your own build if you had the points for it. As he continued to browse through the karma shop, he finally decided on a build he wanted to create. This is gonna be batshit crazy. With a weary yet contented expression, his eyes glimmered faintly as the grin he had suppressed for so long finally spread across his face. It was the type of maniacal grin that would send shivers down upon any sacrificial lamb. Let's do a physically overpowered troll build. Cause fuck casting spells. If he were going to fight someone, he would rather get up close and personal and bash the poor bastard's head in with these hands. Or weapon for that matter. Skills, search bar, items in cart. Spider sense, passive skill, 5,000 karma points. Description: the spider sense is a type of precognition passive skill that warns the user when danger is nearby by making the base of their skull tingle, helping the user react quickly to threats and stay safe. Manju Muso, active skill, 20,000 karma points. Description: the Manju Muso skill is an upgraded version of Senju Muso. With this ability, a person can memorize and analyze their opponent's moves, creating a mental simulation of the opponent and fighting against it in their mind until they find a way to defeat them. The Manju Muso tremendously improves on this skill by also letting the user analyze information from their surroundings, like vibrations in the air and ground, helping them predict their opponent's movements even better. Battle continuation, passive skill, 30,000 karma points. Description: the user will not know when to stop. Critically fatal wounds, lost limbs, or being at death's door, will not hinder the user's will to keep fighting until absolute defeat. No injury, no matter how grave, will be able to extinguish the user's will to stay alive on the battlefield. Monstrous strength, active skill, 30,000 karma points. Description: an active skill that allows one to release short bursts of power during a predetermined duration which allows the user to draw out unimaginable amounts of strength. Since it's from King Prota, its effects are far more potent than any other fate servant with the same skill. Eternal Arms Mastery, passive skill, 20,000 karma points. Description: through the seamless integration of mind, body, and technique, the practitioner can wield their full fighting prowess even in the face of mental or physical burdens. No hindrances, whether mental or physical, can hinder the user's ability to execute techniques with precision and efficiency, as one transcends limitations, even surpassing their current prime for a limited duration. Alpha's Swordsmanship, combat skill, 10,000 karma points. Description: a swordsmanship form modified from the Crimson Abyss version into the Crimson Weave version. This improved version now encapsulates all aspects of the aforementioned version's strong points while also massively improving its weak points. This style focuses on explosive bursts of speed and power, perfectly mixing them to form a destructive sword style. Stellar Synergy, active skill, 30,000 karma points. Description: this active skill allows the user to attune themselves to the flow of cosmic energies, harmonizing their movements and techniques with the natural rhythms of the universe. They can draw upon the power of the stars and planets to enhance their combat abilities, channeling celestial energy into their attacks with devastating effect. Spiritual Connection, active skill, 5,000 karma points. Description: this skill enables the user to establish a spiritual connection with a chosen target. Once the contract is completed, both parties can sense each other's presence regardless of distance and engage in conversations at any time if they wish to. Traits, search bar, Items in card weapon primacy 20,000 karma points description. With this trait, the individual rises above all others, capable of wielding any weapon with unmatched proficiency and precision. The user is not just skilled but embodies the pinnacle of weapon arts. Jack of all trades? No, a virtuoso of all trades in essence. Fist sovereignty 20,000 karma points description. This trait signifies the user's absolute dominance over hand-to-hand combat. The wielder of this trait transcends mere proficiency, embodying the essence of martial prowess and asserting their control with every strike. These hands? Rated DNG, because even the gods will have to square up. Mastery of self 30,000 karma points description. This trait grants the user unparalleled control over every aspect of their body, allowing them to manipulate their physiology with absolute precision and finesse. With mastery of self, the user can regulate their heartbeat, metabolism, and hormonal balance with ease, achieving a state of perfect balance and peak physical condition at all times. Transcendent hypersensory perception 10,000 karma points description. This trait specifically enhances the user's sensory abilities to an extreme level of perception. It focuses on the amplification of the user's senses, such as sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, to an unimaginable degree. With it, the user can perceive external stimulation with unparalleled clarity and detail, allowing them to detect imperceptible changes in their environment. Transcendent hypertuned reflexes 10,000 karma points description. The user's ability to maneuver their body defies the norm. Unlike relying on natural neural responses, the user taps into a state of inner consciousness to achieve inhuman feats of agility that will make Muagaku clap his hands in appreciation. Time will appear perceptibly close to null, which will grant the user seconds of advantage to make split-second decisions. Transcendent hyper-awareness 10,000 karma points description. This trait gives the user an uncanny level of awareness and insight into their surroundings. With it, the user deeply understands their environment, including others' intentions and emotions, and all kinds of energy flow. Anything out of place such as magical illusions will almost certainly be detectable no matter what. As such, it allows the user to make intuitive leaps of judgment, bordering on clairvoyance. Bloodlines, search bar, items in card Colossal Kin Bloodline 500,000 karma points description. This bloodline grants its bearer titan-like strength, granting them immense power, near magic invulnerability including those of demonic and divine nature, and unmatched physical prowess. As a descendant of the Colossal Kin, individuals with this bloodline possess the ability to perform beyond the norm feats of strength. Mountain ranges can be flattened with a stop, while the very lands become your playground. The Colossal Kin are also known for having strong vitality, meaning they're a long-lived species. Total cost of everything, 780,000 karma points. Purchase? Yes or no, purchase complete. Man, what have I created? Jin couldn't help but wonder how he would turn out after fully integrating all of these traits and skills into his body. Thank God, I found the mastery of self trait, or else I will be overwhelmed by my own senses. Can't be having that at all. Praising himself for a wise his choice, just as he was about to exit the karma shop, Jin abruptly stopped before looking into the items section of the karma shop. There was still something he needed to buy. Pretty certain that something like this found it. He was looking at an item that would probably make a certain empress quite happy. Items, search bar, Cosmic Potion 30,000 karma points description. Infused with celestial energies, this mystical potion permanently dispels curses or afflictions from the inner self without side effects while massively improving cognitive abilities. Crafted by ancient alchemists under the star's guidance, it restores balance and vitality, granting relief from constant torment which allows the consumer to finally embrace a pain-free life. Purchase complete. Still got 140,000 karma points left. Continuously tapping his feet on the ground, Jin pondered for a moment. Yet, barely a heartbeat passed before his lips curved into a subtle smirk. Can't overlook the upgrade function. Chapter 4, Local Man sulks after being denied of superhero landing. Monstrous Strength, Active Skill, Titanic Vigor 60,000 karma points description. An evolved version of the Monstrous Strength skill, which allows the user to tap into an even greater reservoir of unrivaled power. With this, the user can temporarily experience the power of what a Colossal Kin at its prime was truly capable of. Stellar Synergy Celestial Harmonization 80,000 karma points description. The evolved form of stellar synergy enables the user to perfectly harmonize with the present celestial energies permeating the cosmos. Once activated, the user faces two choices. They can either utilize this energy to form a cosmic seed within themselves that will continuously generate celestial power on its own, or utilize it all in one go to enhance their strikes, by either unleashing a widespread AO attack that would scorch the very earth itself or a concentrated killing blow that guarantees complete evisceration. However, upon evolving a cosmic seed into a cosmic core and mastering the fusion of personal and celestial energies, the user will be able to enter into a state known as celestial fusion for a limited duration of time. I wonder how long it will take to form this cosmic seed. Before Jin could contemplate further, he shrugged his shoulders. If it ain't present's me problem, then it's future me that has to take care of it. Nodding as if he had done something world-changing, which he did not. Jin finally took a look at the token that would allow him to change his appearance. And to be frank, he didn't want to alter his appearance that much. He was considered quite tall to be fair, standing at 193 centimeters or in freedom units 6'3". As such, he would only increase his height by an extra 2 centimeters, because 195 centimeters looks neat on paper. As for looks, this might be corny and all, but I like who I am, not gonna lie. Besides, according to Granny and Gramps, I am quite a handsome lad myself. If Jin was Pinocchio, his nose would be touching the ends of the universe. In fact, that shit would be extending faster than the expansion of the universe itself. But hey, self-confidence is self-confidence. As long as it doesn't cross the line of narcissism though. Indeed. I will just enlarge my cock. Without an ounce of shame, he whipped his gun out. How big when erect? As if on cue, it suddenly expanded. Should I apologize for thinking about you? Ms. Iron? Pondering whether to apologize or not to his former university teacher, he put his magic wand back in. Shortly after, Jin swiftly added a +2 sign on that section, before quickly moving on while innocently whistling in bliss. Unlike when he chose his skills, traits, and bloodline, which probably took days, it only took him a few hours to finish customizing his appearance. Overall, there weren't any big changes to be fair. If the people he knew from his previous life saw him now, they will probably blame it on those damn mewing or glow-up challenges or whatever the fuck it was. His general body structure stayed the same as well, so not much to say about that. Oh, he also added another inch. We noticed that the selected lord has completed their final decision. We suggest reviewing their information panel one last time to ensure their satisfaction with their choice. Once you have done that, you will notice that a gate has opened up nearby. Step inside and await the beginning of your new life, swoosh. Getting sidetracked by the noise nearby, Jin curiously looked over to the right just to see a swirling black and blue portal appearing. After the initial commotion of the portal's appearance, it settled into a quiet presence, eventually becoming nothing more than a sight to admire. Damn. That's fantasy alright. Whistling in amazement, he stealthily shoved his third leg back in his pants, having forgotten about it amidst the distraction of the portal's sudden appearance. Well then, one last look over then, eh? Besides, he was also kind of curious as to what his overall evaluation will now look like, after getting a slight buff. Personal information panel name, Jin Walfric age, 23 race, human bloodline, colossal kin bloodline traits, tranquil serenity, weapon primacy, fist sovereignty, mastery of self, transcendent hypersensory perception, transcendent hypertuned reflexes, transcendent hyper-awareness passive skills, true mind's eye, spider sense, battle continuation, old man of the mountain, eternal arms mastery, lancer berserker, active skills, manju muso, infinite image defense, titanic vigor, celestial harmonization, spiritual connection combat skills, Greco-Roman wrestling, pioneer, Muay Thai, pioneer, alpha swordsmanship, novice, miscellaneous skills, cooking, don't ever cook, driving, journeyman, history, expert, cleaning, novice, divine arcanum, not available karma shop overall evaluation. If Kratos were to encounter his one and only, old yet annoying friend during his travels in Midgard, who had somehow survived the destruction of Olympus, it would undoubtedly be you, that trusted and reliable friend. Not gonna lie man. Wish I could meet the embodiment of too angry to die himself. Jin sighed in regret, before closing his information panel and steadily walking towards the portal. However, he abruptly stopped, his eyes unfocused as he got drowned in his memories of the modern world. He closed his eyes for a few seconds before a determined yet fiery expression appeared. Ma and Pops, Granny and Gramps, and the lads I made along the way. I will make sure. With a strong step, he shot forth into the portal like an arrow. I will continue to be myself and procrastinate harder than ever. With a confused expression on his face, Jin thought that he was gonna drop from the sky or faint right away the moment he entered the mysterious portal, but lo and behold. I arrived? With a "are you fucking kidding me" type of face. He looked around only to see nothing but lush greenery around him. His face twitched in annoyance. So, you're telling me I imagined all that goofy backstory, just to end up here like a dried-up towel? His expression contorted into an even more horrid grimace, resembling someone who had swallowed a bucket full of raw dough. In an attempt to suppress his initial disappointment, Jin decided to plop down on the grass. After assuming a meditative posture, he positioned himself with one hand cradling his chin, while his elbow found a comfortable position to perch atop his knees. Lazily looking over the landscape, he couldn't deny that it was breathtakingly beautiful, especially when the occasional gentle breeze softly caressed his skin like a mother's embrace. Ding. Host, what? Cheer up. Calm him. Imperceptibly, the corner of his mouth rose a little. In all seriousness, he wasn't that annoyed or pissed off, he really just wanted to sit down and enjoy the view before him. It's just that the initial superhero landing he always wanted to experience as a child, got ruined by the anticlimactic entrance. Besides, he had more pressing matters to attend to. Lord of a territory. Since I didn't buy any skills relating to managing at all, in any under normal circumstances I would have been fucked, but since I have a reliable scapegoat cough assistant, I will probably be fine? Wait. Assistant? Holy shit, I actually forgot about that. With an uncertain look coupled with a frown, Jin hesitatingly asked the system in a doubtful tone. Yo. Where's she at? Ding. I am talking about a Roman emperor. According to my knowledge, a Roman emperor cannot be referred to as she since there are no records of any women being. Fate's confusing, you will get used to it, Nero Claudius. That ring a bell? Ding. Searching. Searching. Ding. Indeed, as expected of the host, okay. The system made a thorough scan of the host's body and found a ticket in the right-hand pocket of your pants. With robotic-like movements, he reached his hands into his right-hand pocket and pulled a card with golden-like ridges around the edges. Eyes narrowing at the familiar Saber class back cover art, he flipped the card over and that's her all right. Looking at the Saber-like face with green eyes and blonde hair tied up into a complex bun, Jin was now certain that it was Amu. Though the art is quite different from what I am used to. He noticed the differences between the one from FGO and this one. This time she held a beautiful rose with both hands. Nero was still adorned in her revealing red and white dress with long puffy sleeves, a transparent front, a leotard, and knee-high golden armored boots, so that didn't change much. And she seemed a bit older as well. But what is that look she's giving him? It's almost lifelike as if she... Wait a goddamn minute. Upon scrutinizing in extreme detail, an almost imperceptible smirk arose on the woman's face. Hell nah. Jin swatted the golden card out of his hand, but it stubbornly stuck to him like glue. As if enjoying the realization dawning upon the young man's face, the woman on the card suddenly smirked. Hey. Hey. As if frightened to the core, Jin suddenly did the helicopter with his arms, flailing them around so hard, the wind started to pick up as he fucking flew. A look of absolute horror appeared on the woman's face, and as such, without hesitation. Puff. Chapter 5, Local man summons the Roman Empress after causing a near-extinction event A. Realizing that the card got unstuck in his hand, Jin was about to sigh in relief before he perceived that something was oddly wrong. Robotically turning his head to look down, he saw the golden card peacefully drifting away with the wind. Above the clouds. He then looked around only to realize that he was above the clouds as well. Oh, dear! Before he could utter something in amazement, his body finally decided to succumb to gravity as he fell at a rapidly increasing velocity. Now, any other human would have felt discomfort from the biting wind piercing their skin, but Jin remained unperturbed. It was as if he just didn't humanely helicopter himself a couple of thousand meters into the sky. Instead, his focus was locked on the golden card, which was about 200 meters away. Furthermore, if one looked correctly, a certain Roman empress was absolutely losing her shit as she comically ran around within the card. Deciding that he had admired the beautiful clouds and sky long enough, he abruptly turned his body around and casually clapped his hands together, eerily resembling the Hulk. Boom. A massive shockwave shot out from the moment of impact, parting the clouds miles away while Jin shot downward like an asteroid. Plunging downward at an unfathomable speed, his form cast a crimson outline, showcasing the intense friction with the atmosphere. Though amidst the blur, his eyes caught sight of the golden saber card. And gotcha. His hands quickly shot out like lightning, accurately grabbing the card within his hands, before putting it close to his chest. Tremble ain't no way. The card can tremble? He dumbfoundedly looked at the card, then forcefully peered his gaze away to look where to land. Cause oh, we have arrived. Boom. The meteoritic human smashed into an unknown mountain, devastating every single rocky terrace in the affected vicinity, and turning it into nothing but absolute ruins. And unbeknownst to him, a massive mushroom cloud formed above the once majestic peak of the mountain, which then spread upwards into the upper stratosphere. Not long after boom, the soon-awaited shockwave sounded out like a thunderous roar, sweeping the remnant rubble of the mountain into all directions, which billowed outwards like a destructive tsunami. With each moment passing, One could hear distant sounds of constant obliteration as the relentless kinetic energy of the shockwave sculpted landscapes anew, which kicked endless amounts of dust and dirt into the air, eventually blocking out the sun. Meanwhile, the perpetrator himself. Shit. Ding. The host got his long-awaited superhero landing. With a wry smile, Jin stiffly turned his planted body around to look at the gray sky. Man-made ice age? After brushing off the dust, Jin rose slowly from what was once a majestic mountain, now reduced to a vast crater surrounded by jagged irregular rocky formations. The air was thick with smoke, billowing out from the surrounding area. He solemnly looked around with a frown, quite uncertain how he should be feeling. After a while, he sighed in resignation and shrugged his shoulders. Can't cry over spilled milk. I will just let it be a one-time occurrence. Luckily he was far away from the area where he spawned in, so at least that area was spared from any harmful never mind. He looked at the dark sky which had no sunlight coming through whatsoever. No photosynthesizing after all, yikes. With a lazy yawn, he glanced down at the golden card nestled against his chest, untouched until this moment. Hey. He curiously tapped the card, akin to a hairless Curious George. A sudden oj popped out from the bottom of the card before a woman's face slowly revealed itself. Nero had this incredulous look in her eyes as she tried to look around, but since she was trapped within the card, she was unable to. Knowing her intentions, Jin continued to yawn before turning the card around and letting her see the aftermath of their little escapade. The card trembled again. After a while, he turned the card around again and saw a pair of lime green eyes looking up at him. System. Ding. At your service, host. This card. What is it exactly? According to the system's analysis, this card is the very essence of this human soul. The host can imagine it like a memory chip, which stores all the unique aspects and the individual's life experiences like a databank, while the avatar within that card is fundamentally a human without a soul to govern it, basically, a puppet so to say. So, if I were to summon her, all that shit goes into her avatar. Which means Nero won't just be a heroic spirit anymore but an actual human being with the powers of a servant? Correct. After using this card, all of the information in it will go into her avatar, essentially transferring all of Nero Claudius' strength and memories into a readily made human body. Picture this, the host can envision it like a dam being unblocked, right? Think of all those memories rushing forth like a torrent of water, with the main avatar of Nero Claudius waiting at the other end, ready to soak it all in. It's like unleashing a flood of recollections, Is that so? Several seconds had already passed, and the woman inside the golden card was wondering why this young man with burnt clothes was looking at her as if she were someone fascinating. Which by the way wasn't how he looked at her at all, but it's Nero. Even though it's not Nero at the moment. 8. Amplify her ass. You know damn well what I meant. Ding. Cooldown ended. Proceeding with the 1000 times amplification. 100% exclamation mark successfully amplified your servant card to a greater level. Cooldown, 2090 23 hours 59 minutes. No saint graph, nor a heroic spirit. She's probably been severed from the root itself. Mumbling under his breath, Jin finally decided to summon her, not before taking a certain space potion out. He gazed at the freshly transformed card, now gleaming with a platinum hue that would have rivaled a brilliant diamond's shine, if not for the sun being cock-blocked by all the dust and whatnot. As such, he took a deep breath and crossed his arms like he was about to throw a damn trap card on the ground. His eyes shone with a sharp light from who knows where. I choose you. Swoosh. A platinum card flew through the air, while brilliant flashes of light began to compress within itself which then exploded outwards. Plop. A figure descended onto the still smoking ground. Her long blonde hair, surprisingly untied, elegantly fell to the side of her face as her bright green eyes slowly opened themselves to gaze at the man in front of her. She slowly walked towards him in a regal manner, as if the atmosphere of a post-meteoritic crash didn't bother her at all. Soon, she stood a few feet away from him. She's quite tall. Ain't she a midget though? Jin, seemingly surprised by her height, scratched his head in confusion. In the meantime, the woman also scrutinized the man in front of her, nodding in satisfaction from time to time. After a while, a subtle smirk spread across her face before she proudly puffed out her chest and haughtily stabbed her crimson sword into the ground. You are certainly worthy of being my breeder. Jin, with a smug grin, she eagerly extended her hand. Behold. You have summoned the best servant there is. The man in front of her blankly looked at her before firmly grasping her hand in a handshake, which surprised her. What a grip. This sudden thought occurred to her before he began to speak. Salve, honor estate, Imperatrix. She froze on the spot. Quimodo wait, how do you? She stumbled along her words as she expressed utter confusion. Faced with a man in front of her who immediately spoke in her mother tongue as if he knew her origins, the Roman Empress, Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus was incredibly perplexed. And for the first time in a while, a triumphant grin emerged on Jin's face. Don't know what that means. Thought the phrase sounded badass or some. Releasing her hand, Jin decided to walk away, not forgetting to gesture at her with his head to come along. This gonna be long, so I'll listen. 8? Chapter 6, Roman Empress expresses desire to conquer with confused local man. So, Praetor, according to you, you have also been summoned to this place? A surprised exclamation came out of Nero's mouth as she walked beside Jin, who looked like someone who time-traveled from the Stone Age. His black hair looked like a combination of a bird's nest and the inside of a vacuum after not cleaning it for weeks. His t-shirt? He decided to rip it off. What about his pants? Still there, albeit barely. Jin looked at Nero and responded with a slight nod. Yeah, that's the gist of it, I guess. And our task is to manage a territory? You. Nero had a curious look as she continued scanning her surroundings, noticing that the area they were in didn't fit the definition of territorium in her mind. I see no territory, Praetor. Glancing at her from the corner of his eye, Jin responded with a carefree tone. That's the neat part about our situation, we ain't got one. Oh. As if a sudden light bulb lit up above her head, she excitedly turned around and looked at the man with stars in her eyes. I have decided. Seeing the apparent questioning look on his face, Nero proudly puffed out her chest, stabbed her sword into the ground again, and put her hands on her hips. We shall establish a new empire. A new world. A new order. And how do you plan to do that? First of all, a fitting geographical location to make use of terrain advantage is what we shall seek. And then? Expand. Sounds about right. Jin looked at the swaying Oja-trop the woman's head, clearly seeking an answer as to how that was physically even possible. Yet, something had been nagging at him for quite a bit, so he decided to ask her about it now. Okay. Besides establishing our territory, you ain't gonna question what happened to this place? As if to point out exactly what he meant, Jin looked around, glancing at the devastation around them. Why should I? Wasn't it like this when you got summoned here as well? Nero looked at him as if he had smoked some sativa. He finally understood. Everything that happened prior. She has no recollection of it. Deciding to test out a theory of his, he suddenly started to bombard her with incomprehensibly weird-ass remarks. Hakuno. Nero, Venus. Nero, Gawain. Nero, I see Nero. The Roman Empress speechlessly looked at the man in front of her. My Praetor, may I have some of that sativa? Ain't got no goddamn weed on me. With a look of disgust, Jin continued drudging forward, steadily making his way out of the crater they would been walking in for the past several minutes. However, as he was leaving the still dumbfounded Empress behind, he had confirmed something else. She probs hadn't dealt with that hot mess yet, or maybe cause she's disconnected from the whole route, some of her memories might have got lost during her separation. Can't say for sure though. After a weary sigh, he finally cast a glance at the blinking dot on the right side of his field of vision that had been continuously there since his arrival in this world. Status? Congratulations on safely arriving in the world of Arcadia. Gazing blankly at the apocalyptic clusterfuck surrounding him and the distant turmoil under the gray sky, Jin shamelessly whistled as he continued scrolling through the logs. Meanwhile, Nero had caught up to him, also peering at the panel. Wait. You can see this? Jin asked, stealing a glance at the Empress. Getting a nod of confirmation from her, Nero got closer and read the logs as well. I honestly thought I was under some magical illusion. Good thing it's an ability of my Praetor. I see. Spotting something amiss, Jin's gaze shifted to the empty bottle in her hand. Seems like you enjoyed it. He remarked. Since my Praetor says it can make me feel good when drinking it, then I have no doubt that's true. In fact, flexing her biceps, Nero had a refreshing smile on her face. I feel better than ever. That's so. I will ask the system to scan her later. With a reassuring nod from her, the both of them continued reading the logs. Once again, we welcome the Lord to a world that used to be governed by the divines, now left to drift alone in the vast emptiness of space. Humans who once used to forge kingdoms of towering splendor, elves who once held the forests at the palm of their hands, and dragons who once soared in the boundless expanse of the skies. Yet, even amidst the golden era, a clash of the divines proved too much to bear for the world. The skies thundered, the lands became asunder, and the seas cried in terror. However, millions of years have passed since, and once again time has proven itself to heal everything. Life has begun to creep back to the surface, forests have begun to hear the chirps of life again, and mountains stand tall once more. Jin subtly glanced away. Nero was too invested to give a shit anyway, her eyes were already shining so much you would think they had supernovas in them. We call upon you, the chosen lord among many, To guide this world and usher in a new golden era. Rise and seize. Lead and rule. Fight for what is right, fight to preserve, and may your efforts be blessed with success and glory, pro Roma et Gloria. Accompanied by a confused look, Jin squinted his eyes at Nero. Not backing away from his gaze, the Roman Empress grasped his hands in childlike excitement. Praetor. Praetor. Yes, I am your praetor. Praetor. Ignoring his words entirely, her face drew close to his, the distance between them mere inches. We can be in this together. To lead and rule. To be loved by loyal subjects. Seeing his apparent discomfort, Nero finally noticed and awkwardly backed away, yet her bright green eyes didn't stop shining. Faking a cough, she held her hand close to her chest. I apologize, but... Finally deciding on something, she suddenly closed the gap between them in less than a second and held Jin up on her shoulder. Jin, we wasted enough time blabbering nonsense. A new territory we shall claim. Boom. With a burst of strength she didn't know she had before, Nero jumped away at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Hearing the sudden sound of wind piercing his delicate ears, Jin decided to just limp and enjoy the journey. We'll Aizen now. On the shoulder of a servant, neat for real. And you should be honored. Whoosh. Seeing the ground below them, Nero, with a swift, decisive movement, tensed the muscles in her legs, channeling her power into a single explosive leap. Boom. As she soared through the air, the ground trembled beneath her, unable to bear the force of her might, fracturing outwards like a complex web-like pattern. System. PLS. Ding. At your service, host. Scan her. For my sake and yours. Sure thing, host. Scan complete, let's see then. Host, you. I support it, da fucking on about, you on some sativa? Ignoring the herd emoticons from the system, Jin decided to check Nero's information out to see what the system had amplified. Boom. While ignoring the occasional booms, of course. Name, Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, age, 26, biologically, race, human, former heroic spirit, bloodline, ancient Roman bloodline, hints at various divine bloodlines, traits, hyperhuman constitution, indomitable mind, super genius, enhanced cognitive capabilities, inhuman battle IQ, passive skills, Eternus Spiritus Divini, near-elemental magic nullification, charisma of the Empress, combat skills, Greco-Roman wrestling, pioneer, swordsmanship, pioneer, active skills, imperial ascendance, eternal spirit of ancient Rome, miscellaneous skills, all-round artist, pioneer, writing, grandmaster, leadership, pioneer, divine arcanum, Eterna Damus Aurea Divi Imperatricis, Sanctus Claudius Eternus Laus per Cosmos. Overall evaluation, the copycats of copycats. Some might underestimate or even ridicule her for this, but they will realize soon enough that someone of her caliber is way beyond comprehension. Chapter 7, Local Man lets intrusive thoughts win. Does Street Fighter move on? Wild Rhino. After what seemed like almost hours of hopping around the unknown world, Nero finally found a place she deemed satisfactory to claim as her own. The start of us legally taking territories shall begin here. Still having an arm around Jin's body over her shoulder, she overlooked the area they arrived in. Standing amidst the vast expanse of a rolling plain, far away from the clusterfuck caused by a certain individual, Nero's gaze wandered over the lush unobstructed scenery before her. The landscape, uniquely painted with hues akin to the most captivating sunset, revealed its majestic splendor, stretching out as far as the eye could see. So beautiful. Surrounded by incredibly large mountain ranges with fitting passages as well as various connecting tributary rivers, her eyes analyzed every single piece of detail as if wanting to burn them into the back of her mind. She then looked further away, eyes shining brightly at a twin mountain that surpassed the clouds themselves. Nero also detected a plethora of multicolored plants and trees adorning its rocky terrain. Besides, upon further observation, her gaze landed on an unusual split among those two mountains, as if it was carved in by some sword years ago. Oh. Noticing something, she suddenly sharpened her senses, picking up on the distant sound and vibrations. With careful attention, she steadily mapped out an expansive map of the terrain in her mind, stretching across an area akin to several Luxembourgs. A river between those twin mountains. Multiple connections of several other rivers as well, and she sniffed the air and noticed a tinge of saltiness in there. Soon after, realizing what that meant, her eyes shone in excitement. We're not landlocked, great. Although the ocean seemed quite a distance away, it didn't matter to her cause everything she set her eyes upon would eventually become hers anyway. And that's an unbroken rule of hers. Finished with her analysis of the surrounding area they were in, the Empress closed her eyes in bliss and sucked a mouthful of fresh air. Much better than that place. Exhaling a content sigh, she gently placed Jin on the smooth grass, before plopping down herself. Her eyes unblinkingly stared at the afternoon sky, lost in thought. Am I really human now? Recalling what Jin had said to her when she first got summoned, she frowned. What does it mean to be one? Having got so used to fighting in countless grails, fighting in different timelines, while also dying a bunch of times in her spiritual form, she hadn't had the time to have some thoughts to herself since forever. Turning her body over, she looked at the half-naked caveman soundly sleeping beside her in peace. Hey! Subtly smirking at his rough look, Nero briefly had the suspicion that the destroyed place they were once at was in one way or another related to the dumbass beside her. Not to mention, ever since she got summoned, she felt in every way superior to what she once was. Improved physical prowess? Check. Improved magical output and capacity? Check. Moreover, it wasn't just some little bitsy enhancement that would make her a bit surprised. No, it was the equivalent of having a pulsating star inside of a tightly compressed space, ready to explode at any moment. Enter migraines? Heck, non-existent. This chronic fucking problem of hers which had accompanied her through every single summon no longer exists. Ugh. Whatever. Still thinking of the weird potion Jin had given her, Nero decided to reason that it was the cause of everything. Humphrey. Looking over at Jin peacefully snoring away in bliss, she pouted and turned her body around. After a while, she swiftly found herself closing her eyes as a dark veil covered her consciousness, and before long, fell into a much-needed sleep. Amu. 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 Host. Ding. 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 Apostrophe dots up. You're back, eh? I only slept for a bit thou, ding. 1000 times amplification system. Cool down, 20d 2 hours 42 minutes. HMMMMM. With imaginative war flashbacks, Jin stood straight up from his sleeping position. Oh, dear. Looking at his surroundings, Jin was thoroughly surprised at the beauty of this place, even forgetting to take into account that he had slept for more than a week straight. Dang. That's big. Whistling in amazement, he spotted the twin mountains from afar, unconsciously comparing them to the one he unintentionally destroyed. 2? Nah. Around 3 times as large? As he continued to look around, a certain empress suddenly frowned in her sleep, feeling as if she lost a body pillow. Amu. 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 Hearing the sudden noise below him, Jin glanced down at Nero adorably mumbling her catchphrase in her sleep. Don't tell me. Ding. Nero Claudius hasn't woken up ever since you first slept, that's trembling? Sensing the ground trembling beneath him, he swiftly pivoted and zeroed in on the source. Oh. Atop a hill, a colossal creature resembling a rhinoceros loomed, partially blocking out the rays of sunshine, and casting a shadow on the landscape. Dark energy intensely crackled around the massive horn on its snout and the tusks protruding from beneath its mouth. Its red demonic-like eyes bore through the humans from afar, seething in madness. Grrrrrrr. The beast emitted a deep, rumbling growl, its reverberations echoing deep into the ground before spreading outwards. Ignoring its rising killing intent, he continued to observe the monster several kilometers away from him. Yo. The hell's that? Ding. The system is unfamiliar with this species. Does the host want me to scan it? Nah, we good. Putting his hand under his chin, he pondered how to make it kindly go away. Cause for all he knew, both him and Nero probably. Nah definitely are in this angry boy's territory at the moment. It's just a feeling you know, but whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Jin had disappeared from his spot, his afterimage still lingering in his place for several seconds. Before the towering behemoth could even comprehend what had conspired, it suddenly felt a massive gut-wrenching pain punch through its thick skin. Ruar like a cannonball being launched, the monster barreled through the landscape at a breakneck velocity, its body leaving trails and cracks on the grassy terrain every time it bounced. Jin, having arrived here before it could finish its slip and slide, stopped the beast in its tracks while grabbing the tusks with both hands. Rarg feeling the sudden sense of unprecedented pressure on its prideful tusks, the beast roared in absolute rage before boom. Unleashing a massive wave of dark light energy from its body which spread outwards in every direction, resulting in a sudden abnormal growth of the monster. Gruesome veins popped out of its bulging muscles, its demonic eyes blackening at a terrifying rate. Roar. Boom. An even more intense wave of energy swept through the rolling plains, even stirring Nero awake who was nothing but a minuscule black dot in the distance. Feeling this surge of malicious magical energy, she honed in on the location, spotting Jin holding down on a monster's tusk with a nonchalant expression, while he was fucking yawning. Rubbing her eyes, she looked again. This time, the man had balled his fist mignon and punched down with a force hard enough to dissipate the dark energy into nothingness. Swoosh. Feeling the air current rushing towards her, she unblinkingly stared up into the sky. Breather. After he punched the beast's adamantine-like skull, Jin suddenly decided to say, "We ball," before yanking the more than 1,000-ton beast into the air with him. Roar! High up in the air, the beast roared in shame and anger, furious that its head was suddenly between the legs of another male. How shameless, it wasn't into the other gender. Meanwhile, Jin's grip was akin to a vice, clamping onto the underside of the monster's neck, keeping its body inverted with its head aimed squarely at the ground. And with a sudden spin whoosh, as if gravity had increased by 1,000-fold, they dropped down so fast that before the sound wave could catch up, a massive tremor spread through the entire rolling plains, cracking the surrounding area in the process, as dirt and dust got kicked up into the air. Boom. Praetor. Tilting his head at the sudden voice, Jin, still seated, looked up at the Roman Empress, who had broken through the sound barrier with ease. And, from Nero's perspective, seeing the unscathed dumbass sitting there, scratching his head awkwardly, she breathed a sigh of relief. Geez. Glancing at the towering beast, which had its head planted deep into the ground, Nero couldn't help but reminisce about the time she used to wrestle a lion, while naked in front of an audience. Long time no see? Hearing him call her out, she snapped out of her reveries and glanced down at Jin with glimmering eyes. Praetor. You. Praetor. Praetor. You. Jumping up in excitement, she looked up at the still twitching body of the rhinoceros-like beast. You did this. I know. Let's eat it. Jin, Nero, the still alive beast, but... Bro just got Zanny food though? Chapter 8, Roman Empress and local man in awe after summoning hostile troops. So, Jin blankly glanced at Nero affectionately rubbing the underbelly of the rhinoceros-like beast he had fought a few days prior. You see this shit system? Ding. Perhaps, because it's cute? The man deadpanned at the system's remark, casting a glance at the rhinoceros, which showed no signs of cuteness whatsoever. The motherfucker was almost 6 meters tall and 8 meters in length. Coupled with a massive horn on its snout and gigantic tusks resembling that of ancient mammoths, its body was akin to a heavily armored tank. What the fuck's so cute about that? Forget eating it, it shall be our mound. Seeing the red saber so happy with her decision to keep this beast as a pet, Jin couldn't help but deadpan more. Man. After the fight had ended a few days ago, Jin had somehow managed to persuade Nero not to devour the poor creature. Soon after, he hoisted the beast with an indifferent face, chucking it far away from their vicinity. Following that, they strolled through the plains, surveying the area. Fortunately for them, not too far from where they rested, they stumbled upon several sizable caves brimming with various minerals, promising potential for future economic deals. Nero also continuously yapped about what kind of architectural masterpieces she would place in certain areas while also marking places she deemed to have potential in the long run. Jin just nodded along the way, acting as if he understood everything. Back to the present, he decided to Discord mute the Empress and the rhinoceros in the background, while focusing on this subtle weird feeling he had felt since waking up. He closed his eyes for a few seconds, effortlessly twitching some of the muscles in his body to gauge the changes he felt. After a while, he opened his eyes again. My body has gotten stronger. And the reason for that became increasingly clearer to him the more he thought about it. The colossal kin bloodline. Long-lived species. The titanic vigor's skill description. Putting the information together, everything clicked into place. My ass is still in the juvenile stage. In other words, I am not even close to what the top dogs were capable of. Jin, who inherited the purest blood of the ancient giants, would continuously grow stronger as he aged. Furthermore, sleeping for days on end was one of the main factors in this minuscule, but sudden growth in strength. Neat. Nodding in satisfaction, he unmuted the duo from the back of his mind and glanced at the rhino who had awaited them at the place where it got face planted into the ground. Woo-you-you. Seeing the oversized beast behaving like a submissive puppy, Jin decidedly shrugged his shoulders in defeat. It is what it is. Besides, maybe the rhinoceros could be of use to ward off other magical beasts and the like. After all, it did seem strong. In its own way. Ah. Praetor, look what I have discovered. Snapping out of his thoughts, he looked at Nero who suddenly had a status panel in front of her. Oh, got it as well? Indeed. I just copied what my praetor said and this thingy popped up. He walked towards her and curiously looked down at the panel. This seems to be information about our territory. Congratulations on claiming the Titan Horns territory as your own. Territory, the divided lands, can be renamed. Size, 17,423 square kilometers. Since the Lord has claimed a reasonably large piece of territory, a sufficient reward has been granted. New. Blueprint for a customizable castle, available for continuous upgrades. New. Remnants for the two-winged mechanical legion, available for continuous upgrades. New. Blueprint for advanced technological workshops, available for continuous upgrades. Keep up the good work. Wow. Praetor, you seeing this? Sensing Nero's excitement, The Titan horn, having no clue what it was about, still jumped around in response to her emotions, causing the ground to shake. Oversized puppy-looking ass. Ignoring Jin's usual weird remark, Nero excitedly grasped his wrist before pulling him closer. Look. We're going to have our own army now. The Blueprint's army. Fuck's sake. Face twitching at her stubbornness, he reluctantly guided her to the next step. Just tap on the troops section. Following his guidance, the status panel changed before showing the aforementioned section to both of them. And seeing the massive blinking new. Next to the now available two-winged mechanical legion, Nero almost couldn't contain her excitement anymore. Similarly, anticipation built up inside Jin, his suppressed grin nearly breaking free. Yet, she didn't click on it. He glanced at her, confusion flickering across his face. However, without a word, Nero grabbed his wrist again and forced his hand onto the panel alongside hers. Eyes squinting at the mischievous smile of the Empress, their hands both touched the screen. Praetor, nothing's hap rumble suddenly, a loud mechanical noise filled the air, making them look up to see a huge portal opening in the sky. They saw unknown sigils and runes tangling alongside each other as these symbols akin to mechanical gears, turned together in seamless unity, before rapidly beginning to spin. With this, the portal began to expand into a bigger shape before stopping. Whoosh! Sounds of air began to pierce the trio's ears, the Titan horn in particular, having already harnessed a tremendous amount of dark energy while menacingly growling. Jin and Nero looked up to see an endless amount of tiny dots flowing down at breakneck speed, coming towards their location. What is this guy doing? Seeing the Titan horn about to release its harnessed energy, Jin nonchalantly bonked its head, effortlessly dissipating the accumulated magic. Woo! The overgrown puppy looked at Jin with eyes that screamed, "What the fuck, man? You stole my territory, now you're hitting me when I am trying to protect yours?" Shrugging his shoulders at the wronged look of the beast, Jin continued to observe the upcoming army of mechanical soldiers. Clank. One by one, they landed in front of the trio, kicking up dust into the air. Praetor. Nero excitedly shook Jin around. "I am with you on this." Finally letting his smile come out, he scrutinized the soldiers. These bionic beings, adorned with black, gray, and red mechanical gears, all kneeled. Their bodies bore an eerily resemblance to humans, save for their heads, which featured sharp metallic beaks and glowing eyes that emitted an eerie intensity. Gray and black metallic feathers adorned their heads and backs, flowing in the wind as if they were not made of metal at all. And to top it off, they were fucking tall, alright. Even in a kneeling position with their heads slightly bent at an angle, they stood at roughly 175 centimeters or 5'9", so if one were to lowball it, they were probably more than 7 feet tall in a straightened position. Holy shit. Jin was honestly amazed at the sheer size and number of the summoned troops. Yet Praetor, look. It was far from over. Whoosh. 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 Looking up at the still opened portal, the trio saw 3 streaks of different but intense lights, catapulting to the ground. As they drew nearer, the streaks of light gradually slowed down, unveiling their forms as they gently descended onto the grassy terrain. Upon seeing these 3 distinctly different figures, Jin could only whistle in amazement. Now that's a fucking superhero landing. Making a 10 sign with his hands, he was about to approach them, but... Saber? Left alone with the dumbfounded rhinoceros, Jin glanced at her, not far away, observing one of the 3 figures that appeared to be a legion commander. Bruh. Nero stood in front of what can only be described as a gigantic war machine. Cranking her neck up, she saw the being looking down at her. Already towering above the other soldiers, the metallic warframe possessed chilling golden eyes, adorned with golden and black plates arranged in a beautiful pattern across its body. Its visage resembled that of a knight's helmet, with the upper section curving inwards into a sharp edge, akin to a demon's horn. Completely undeterred by the imposing figure before her, she extended her hand towards it, waiting for a handshake. Seeing the small human female extending her hands towards him, the being continued glancing at her before raising its arm. Boom. Faster than one could react, the raised arm suddenly smashed into Nero's face. Roar. Unable to contain its already hostile emotions, the Titan horn started to release its dark energy, distorting the air in a heat-like wave. As its body was about to enlarge in madness, a gentle hand suddenly patted its side. "Oi, little lad, I know you have taken a liking to her," but with a nonchalant tone, Jin gestured his head, his eyes piercing through the smoky area where the metallic fist collided with Nero. "She fine, bro." The Titan horn, having calmed down a bit, glanced at the area, where the smoke steadily settled down, before a familiar cheerful voice rang out. "Wow. You have an actual metal arm, that's awesome." The war machine, feeling its hand suddenly being moved and squeezed in a vice-like grip, registered the human female's smiling face into its view. and before it could react in accordance, a crack. With one swift motion, Nero twisted her arm, forcing the being to kneel before her. Her eyes suddenly squinted in an eerily green glow, her smile changing into one as chilling as the Atlantic itself. Raising your arm against your empress is punishable by death. With a tone laced with venom, her grip tightening until the metal arm began to bend with a creak. You mongrel. Chapter 9, Local man gets a little too devious for his own good. You mongrel. Nero's face was by definition incredibly terrifying at the moment. The usual cheerful empress had a scowl etching across her visage, her smile long replaced by a bloodthirsty grin. Yet, as swiftly as it appeared, her cheerful self soon returned. Hey, just testing. Acting as if she just didn't make a 10-foot being her bitch, she turned around to see Jin walking towards her with a titan horn. With a sunny smile plastered across her face, she dashed towards them and immediately grabbed Jin, shaking him around in excitement. Praetor. How was it? Huh? Seeing his usual lost look on his face, she repeated herself. Acting. That was acting? How would you rate my performance? People usually love it so much they can't even begin to harbor the thoughts to escape, and Nero soon became background noise, as a thought rose within him. That wasn't acting. Transcendent hyper-awareness description. This trait gives the user an uncanny level of awareness and insight into their surroundings. With it, the user deeply understands their environment, including others' intentions and emotions, and all kinds of energy flow. Anything out of place, such as magical illusions, will almost certainly be detectable no matter what. As such, it allows the user to make intuitive leaps of judgment, bordering on clairvoyance. With it, the user deeply understands their environment, including others' intentions and emotions. Guy would have been 6 feet deep if she hadn't changed her intentions last second. Looking at Nero still happily yapping about her awe-inspiring performance, Jin suddenly felt like he couldn't compare her to the original version anymore. Nay. She was already different from the very beginning. Oh, man. Having realized this, Jin didn't show it on his face. Instead, he replied with his usual lazy and carefree tone. Oh. Shiver me timbers? Hey, you didn't listen. Pouting in anger, she stomped on the ground, causing it to shake. Saber, I would happily stay inside your chambers to see more of your passionate performances. Showing a thumbs up, Jin's face suddenly became incredibly detailed, as if some higher being decided to put more budget into this work. Meanwhile, the dumbass got the whole squad flabbergasted, even making one of the soldiers fall face flat into the ground. Nero, Titan Horn, the Legion commanders, dirty-minded fucks. With this one-liner he brainstormed into reality. He walked past the gobsmacked Roman Empress, in front of the kneeling being who also had an incredulous on his face, even though it was physically impossible. Brother, where would that look come from? Where was it when Nero was seconds away from turning your ass inside out? Feeling wronged, he could now sympathize with the Titan Horn. Jin awkwardly coughed, before offering a hand to the Legion commander. Showing a kind-hearted smile, he said. Hey, she ain't usually that intense, but before he could finish his sentence, the bionic being carefully put his hand away, staying in its kneeling position. No. I apologize on behalf of the 9th Legion. I dared to try to gauge my Empress' capabilities without knowing my place. A deep robotic but noticeably manly voice rang out. We are Legion. We are the remnants of a civilization long past. Following their leader, the 2 remaining Legion commanders dropped to their knees, their distinct robotic voices blending into a chorus of submission with the rest of the kneeling soldiers. We shall be your sword, your spear, and your shield. We shan't fail, we shan't fall, we will conquer the lands, for a new kingdom shall rise from the ashes. With his final shout, a deep booming mechanical gear turned, echoing through the plains like a chamber. My God. Having never witnessed such badassery and epicness before, goosebumps rose from Jin's skin, and he ain't about to suppress it cause it was objectively testosterone-inducing. Apostrophe. Awaiting their new orders, the Legion remained kneeling, respectfully keeping silent. Sensing the pressure, Jin looked over them with an indifferent face, hands suddenly behind his back like a wise sage from the mountains. Yet, Nero, who had already snapped out of her thoughts, was barely holding on to her laugh. Her eyes were about to burst into tears, as she saw him desperately making some kind of forbidden-as hand signs behind his back, obviously requiring her help. As such, knowing exactly what kind of position he was in, she decided to give her breeder a hand. However, as she walked past him, she uttered something that made him squint his eyes. You're bold, my breeder. He subtly glanced at Nero, giving him a mischievous grin, his eyes continuing to trail her as she strolled forward with a momentum befitting of her status. Arise. Her voice boomed across the area, making them straighten up. You exclamation mark. Overlooking the 3 Legion commanders, she continued bellowing out orders in succession. From among the 9,000 soldiers present, The three of you will each lead a separate division and organize brigades from those best suited to their respective roles. Our main priority is claiming territory and scavenging resources including food. Plunder for any metal or ore you can lay your hands on, and return with the materials we need to start immediate construction. And you. The White Legion commander on the right side. Seeing their new empress finger pointed at it, its back straightened even more, before yelling out. My empress. You will stay here with your personally chosen brigade. We begin construction of the roads. As for the rest of you, move. Pro Gloria Rami. Nero pulled out her crimson blade before plunging it deep into the earth, unleashing a torrent of fiery red aura that prompted the summoned legion to carry out their orders. For the kingdom. Congratulations on achieving a 100% loyalty rate from the two-winged mechanical legion within a record-breaking 10 minutes. Rewards are as follows. New. Blueprint for technologically advanced automated turret walls, abbreviated to TAT. Available for continuous upgrades. New. Blueprint for supercharged railkin towers, available for continuous upgrades. Keep up the good work. Ignoring the notifications, Jin had already walked up to Nero, casually standing beside her as he lazily yawned. He observed how thousands of black dots disappeared into the far distance, still amazed at the sheer numbers and their organization as they immediately assembled their personally chosen troops. But why are they staring? Sensing thousands of intense gazes boring into him, he looked toward them. The Legion, so, we're doing this, huh? Jin. Sensing the apparent starting contest, Nero looked at him with a blank face. Praetor, have you considered venting your stress at Elupena? Now. Why would I go there? I have my dignity. Dignity? You seem to have swallowed it. No saber servant is as shameless as you exhibitionist. Oh. My, aiming for the jugular now, eh? Turning her back while showing a grin, she subtly glanced at the remaining Legion troops. Remain put. My praetor and I shall design the road system. We will be back shortly. Having said that, Nero turned back around and pulled Jin and the still confused Titan Horn with her. As the troops watched their retreating backs, they looked at each other, basking in the awkwardness of their situation. Meanwhile, their Legion commander surveyed the terrain in silence. Sensing their leader's contemplation, a soldier stepped forward, respectfully putting his hand on his chest, before calling out. Commander Valkyra, what silence? A clear-sounding robotic feminine voice rang out from the Legion commander, her back still turned against her brigade. Yes. Draped in a robe-like garment, the bionic being effortlessly floated above the grassy terrain with her black wings elegantly flapping around. Rays of sunshine shone down on her form, which boasted a unique design of mostly black and white with accents of vibrant red running down alongside her frame. Unlike the other Legion commanders who had heads resembling knights, hers was a mix of a knight and assassin. She had a white metallic hood that draped over her head, accompanied by a mostly white mask that had a cross-section of black and red over where her eyes were supposed to be. Still floating in silence, she suddenly spoke. My soldiers, this world, we cannot fail it. Not again. Glancing back, centuries of data ran through her head, reminding her of all the times when the entire Legion including all the other machinery desperately fought to reclaim their homeland from those invaders. Upon suffering a planetary defeat, their once mighty core was now reduced to a mere 9,003. However, even with their current numbers common never again. This world, she swore to protect it. Chapter 10. Local man steals Roman Empress sword, says 8-bet before dragging it around. So, how do we go about designing this road system? Jin sat in a meditative posture, his chin resting comfortably on his palm as he perched atop his knees. Sitting opposite him was Nero, who had her arms crossed under her chest, occasionally mumbling while her eyes were closed. Getting no answer, Jin continued staring at her Oj, which twitched and swayed like a leaf. His eyes dazedly darted right and left. After a while, her eyes finally opened, a soft expression grazing her visage. Praetor, could you do me a favor? Oh, no. Bracing himself, Jin's face became utterly serious, fingers intertwined together in a businesslike manner. Seeing him so eager for this task, she became quite happy. It's decided then. She crawled towards him before plopping down again. I will need your help in marking the areas where all the roads will be. You mean? Indeed. All the roads will be approximately 6 meters in length, with an extra 4 meters on each side designed for future civilians. And I want you reaching out, she grabbed a hold of his cheeks, before gently squishing them. To draw those lines across all the terrain. His dead fish-like eyes met hers, which sparkled with mischief. Physical activity gone be piss easy then. Sure. Getting an affirmative nod, she retreated in happiness and confidently started to draw on the ground. Seeing her focus, Jin decided to stay quiet and let her cook. Until he saw her get up and start drawing elsewhere. Oh, shit. This map gotta be fucking huge. Oh. He also saw the Titan horn following her around like a puppy. Praetor. If you somehow, some way, by some means, for some odd reason, in some manner mmffmm. Huh. Tightly closing her mouth shut with his thumb and middle finger, Jin wielded the crimson blade using his free arm with ease, as if it was just an extension of his body. Miles per hour. Miles per hour. And seeing the tear-stricken face of the Empress flailing her arms in wild haymakers, he couldn't help but see her as a toddler having a temper tantrum. Several minutes ago, as Nero finished drawing the map, he had somehow persuaded Nero to give him her crimson blade, claiming he would need it to carve the lines. To which she replied, "Praetor, why not use a stick?" At that time, he looked at her with a deadpan gaze, conveying a message that insulted her intelligence. However, realizing who she was talking to, she face-palmed herself. "Ah. I forgot it will break. Fine, this shall be in your hands then, I trust." To which bro was like, "8-bet," before he yanked the bitch out of her hand, and started running away with Nero following behind him in surprise and annoyance. MMMMHMMM. Now back to the current situation, he couldn't help but feel a bit proud. Actin' like you some big shot. Wait, then never mind. Shit. That didn't work. Fuck. Still, copying Nero's signature smug smirk, he continued swinging the blade around, slicing the air in a crimson arc. Meanwhile, the Legion troops watched their interaction in silence, wondering how this Praetor or whatever he's called could casually act with this imposing empress of theirs. Probably an advisor? They decided on this idea. They had datastormed together in unison. But, based on their previous data, aren't advisors supposed to well advise? Why does this one's appearance look so unrefined? Where is the classic cape? The cliché they were so used to? The luxurious gold and platinum ornaments which were usually adorned with medals, where are they at? The only thing that stood out about this odd-looking human male was that his body was exceptionally well sculpted, which already garnered him a lot of respect from the troops. Though, mechanically engineered soldiers, they knew that humans could also be quite capable. And one undeniable sign of a strong human was a well-sculpted and functional body which Jin had perfected to the extreme. My Empress. Seeing their Legion commander stepping forward, they put their thoughts away and straightened up. Jin finally let go of Nero's lips, curiously glancing at the newcomer. Praetor. You asshole. Whoa. Surprised by the fact that she cussed him out, he suddenly felt like a dad watching their rebellious kid throw a hissy fit. Wait, aren't I supposed to be mad then? Lost in thought, he continued swinging Nero's personal blade. Further annoyed by his indifferent response, she pouted and looked towards the Legion commander. Speak. The Legion commander knelt down, one hand placed over her chest. It has come to my attention that you must have finished the road design, my Empress. Proudly puffing her chest, whilst completely disregarding the previous ordeal, she pointed at Jin with a smug grin. My Praetor will designate the boundaries, following which you and your brigade will excavate to a depth of 8 meters. Understood, my Empress. But sensing her hesitation, Nero patiently waited for her next question. I apologize for my inquiry, but may I ask how your Praetor intends to manage this task single-handedly? Looking up from her kneeling position, the Legion commander glanced around the massive rolling plains. Moreover, it appears we lack a comprehensive map for reference. Oh, so that's what's been bothering you? Nero glanced at Jin as he continued to wield her sword, while also noting how his form had somehow perfected itself within just a minute. Nonetheless, she ignored this, and attributed this to her Praetor. Being her Praetor. Sensing an extremely intense gaze on him, he didn't even need to turn around to discover that it was Nero. Jin stopped his motions, before stabbing the crimson blade into the ground beside him. Yawning, he stretched his arms behind his back in an overhead position, while subtly glancing back. I take it you want me to start? Catching sight of Nero's sunny grin and thumbs-up gesture, he swiftly grasped the blade's hilt, keeping it embedded into the ground, and crouched down, his leg muscles tensing in preparation. 8. System, you ready? Ding. As ready as ever, cool, just remember the map and guide me. We fucking chillin' after this. Understood, boom. With speed far surpassing what he had previously shown before, a compressed explosion shot outwards, his figure blitzing into the distance as the crimson blade continued digging deep into the ground, leaving a trail of crimson fire. Meanwhile, Nero had a completely carefree face, continuously mooing to herself in pride. That's my Praetor. Thud. At the same, one of the soldiers fell face flat into the ground again. It was the same guy. On your right, boom. Left, boom. Forward and then left again, boom. Boom. Host. Stop, whoosh. Immediately halting his momentum, his figure finally became visible again, while air continued to blast forward like a cannon. Lazily stretching his body, he left the now extremely bright crimson blade which had smoke coming out of it, in its place, before walking off. Glancing back at Nero, he waved and commented before jumping away. Got a nap? Waving back at his departing figure with a happy and soft smile, she glanced towards the gobsmacked Legion. Start the construction. Meanwhile, the Legion commander silently stood up before walking towards Nero. My Empress, is he? Knowing what her inquiry was about this time, she just shook her head and nonchalantly replied. Human? Probably. Don't know, don't care. He's my breeder and that's all that matters. Now, get to work. Seeing her gesturing towards them, the Legion finally woke up from their stupor and replied in unison. Yes, my Empress. Responding to her orders, the entire brigade ascended into the air, dispersing across the vast expanse of the rolling plains. Hovering over their chosen areas, their already piercing crimson gazes intensified even further, emitting a brilliant red laser beam that bore through the ground along the lines Jin had marked for them. Wow! Observing this scene, Nero's eyes sparked with excitement, her emerald orbs gleaming at the sight before her. Meanwhile, the Legion commander scanned the entire terrain, before putting her hand up. Stop! She then commanded them. Divide them into smaller chunks for better management, then encircle and use your plasma whips to carry them out. Yes, Commander Valkyria. So that's your name, as your Empress. I apologize for not asking beforehand. Ah. No need, my Emperor. Then, I will have to ask the others their names as well. Feeling the rather cheerful Empress at her side, Valkyria felt a sudden sense of pressure. Oblivious to this, Nero watched intently as the soldiers expertly wielded their plasma whips, directing them precisely into the now 8-meter-deep ground. Working in pairs, they exerted their strength, effortlessly hoisting substantial chunks of earth from the ground. Nice. Satisfied with their strength and efficiency, she plopped down on the ground and happily continued to observe them. Snore, ding. Not again. Ding. 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 The system dinged in frustration as its host casually snored against the Titan horn who was taking a fucking nap as well. Chapter 11, Local Man suddenly questions Xinxia protagonists. Meanwhile, on the other side of the humongous mountain range of the Divided Lands, the two Legion commanders who had left with their Legion continued surveying the area, flying through at a speed comparable to the fastest modern fighter jet. Their 6,000 troops effortlessly followed along as well, keeping a well-organized formation, always looking out if there were any threats. At the forefront stood the 10-foot Legion commander, the one who unsurprisingly got his ass handed to him by the Empress. The man was still reeling from the shock he had received, continuously racking his data-filled mind at how it was even possible for such a lithe physique to possess that amount of monstrous strength. Such power. The Empress resembles our late Grand Marshal. Upon thinking about this, the Legion commander suddenly clenched his fist. Their homeland. Their maintenance friends who always fixed them up after battle. Their leaders. All gone, because an invader decided to connect a bridge to their world, unceremoniously waging war on their planet. Crack, the deeper the gold-armored war machine thought about it, the fiercer his golden eyes gleamed. Curse those damn vermins. Reinhard. Recognizing that his halted movement had caused the others to stop as well, he turned his attention to his fellow Legion commander. Also standing at 10 feet tall, approximately 3 meters, the second-in-command resembled every single bit of a dope-armored knight. He was draped in robust armor reminiscent of gray adamantine, adorned with delicate accents of blue and gold tracing patterns within the crevices. His already imposing figure was heightened by massive shoulder and forearm plates, while a knight helmet featuring a blue cross-section occupied the area where its eyes would typically reside. Silently gazing at his centuries-long friend, the blue mechanically engineered masterpiece let out a robotic sigh. We have been given a second chance to live. I believe our fallen comrades would not wish to witness us dwelling in despondency. Sympathizing with what the war machine in gold felt, he placed a hand on his shoulder. Still, should such a situation arise again, we shall ensure their extermination, eradicating these pests, these so-called gangrene of the worlds. The blue cross-section shone with an eerie blue intensity that would have made the average man piss themselves in fear. Hoo-oo. The 6,000 soldiers behind him howled in unison. I know. Lothric. Accepting that he was right, Reinhard was about to continue forward until his advanced sensory detector sensed something amiss. Halt. Putting his hand up, he scrutinized the massive area, extending his thermal heat detector to see if there were any life forms around. Rocks. 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 Barely any grass. Dead trees. No signs? Tremble. The ground suddenly began to quake. Seeing this, Lothric immediately began giving out orders. Soldiers, formation. Yes, Commander. The 6,000 soldiers executed his orders flawlessly, surrounding the source of the tremor in a spread-out formation. Tremble. Feeling the intensity escalate, Lothric thrust his hand forward. Fire. Without hesitation, the soldiers' hands transformed into lethal plasma guns, before blasting downward towards the ground. Boom. 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 As it went on, a massive hand suddenly shot out from the rocky terrain, twitching and recoiling from the continuous blasts. Observing the scene, Reinhard, within less than a millisecond, had swiftly calculated that the entity must be over 20 meters due to its hand size. As such, whoosh. He activated the thrusters on his back to shoot upwards into the sky. At a high enough altitude, the war machine interlocked his metallic arms, seamlessly merging and transforming them into a colossal rail cannon. Incinerate. Boom. And for a while, a second sun rose into the sky. Ding. 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 You done? Still leaning against the Titan horn who was peacefully snoring under the shadow of a tree's canopy, Jin yawned in relaxation. Feeling the warm gentle caress of the sun which shone through the leaves while occasionally feeling a gentle breeze, he couldn't help but want to sleep more. God damn it. This just feels like a shitty Monday morning on an exam day. He shivered the more he thought about it, before slowly getting up. Crack. Bones began popping all over as Jin lazily stretched his limbs. Blood circulated through every vein, organ, and muscle, invigorating them after a long period of rest. Ha. After completing his stretching routine, he cast his gaze down on his legs, or more specifically, the remains of his Nike shoes. Those ain't shoes anymore. Deciding it was time to rip them off, he did just that. Now what only remained on his body was a pair of barely functional black jeans. Yet, even that had its lower half ripped off while the remaining top looked like cheap knockoff shorts made by starving kids from Cambodia. Wait. That's a rough analogy, mate. Shrugging his shoulders, Jin ran his thumb and index finger along his cheekbones and chin, noticing that stubble had started to appear. And, coupled with his unruly hair that had started to grow longer than ever, he quite resembled a Neanderthal. But, to be fair, he didn't give much of a fuck. He wasn't one to care that much about appearances in the first place. Which probably explains the lack of women in his life as well. Running his hand along his dirty hair, he decided it was time to wash himself up. It's been how long? Exactly, system. Ding, ding, ding. Leaving the Titan horn behind, Jin strolled towards the nearest body of water while his gaze had deadpanned since long ago. Never had a fucking system throw temper tantrums before. Everybody be having tantrums nowadays, bruh. For real, what's up with the bitch up there? You know the feeling you get after working out, going outside to touch grass and then, maybe if you have friends, go outside again to fuck around? That feeling one would get after a long tiring day by getting into a refreshing bath. And shit gets you moaning for real. With a chewing straw between his teeth and a gentle current of water guiding his movements, Jin surrendered to the soothing sounds of nature. Add in the warmth of the sun above, and it was a perfect day to simply be lazy. Relaxingly bathing in the rays of sunshine, he let his thoughts go wild, pondering on something that had been nagging at the back of his mind ever since he got his ass yeeted to this godforsaken world. No pun intended. Oh. Bruh. Celestial Harmonization Description: the evolved form of stellar synergy enables the user to perfectly harmonize with the present celestial energies permeating the cosmos. Once activated, the user faces two choices. They can either utilize this energy to form a cosmic seed within themselves that will continuously generate celestial power on its own, or utilize it all in one go to enhance their strikes, by either unleashing a widespread AO attack that would scorch the very earth itself or a concentrated killing blow that guarantees complete evisceration. However, upon evolving a cosmic seed into a cosmic core and mastering the fusion of personal and celestial energies, the user will be able to enter into a state known as celestial fusion for a limited duration of time. Life was so good that he legitimately forgot about this skill. Do I just think about it? With a bit of uncertainty, he decided to go with his instincts, and just thought about activating this skill. Click. As if a lock had been shattered, Jin felt like a miniature sun had ignited within him, causing a torrential surge of potent energy that his body greedily sucked with insurmountable momentum. Whoosh. The once serene waters surged with wild intensity, trees began swaying along the winds, and the air crackled with unrestrained chaos. Damn. Feeling the effects of what this energy caused to his surroundings as well as the chaotic energy running rampant inside his body, he began to control and compress it into several singular points across every part of his body. Fuck. What did those Xinxia protagonists do? 9 revolting heavens? Yin-yang mantra? Cocksucking arts? This doesn't even have a cultivation tag. Yet, despite his efforts to control the energy, it kept pouring in relentlessly, as though a floodgate had been opened. Gotta deactivate this skill for now. After all, no matter how finely tuned his control over his body was, Jin still needed a bit of extra time to completely adjust, or else the surroundings would turn into nothing but trouble. Click. Thus, just like before, a lock had been placed inside his body. The environment gradually regained its usual calm, while the naked man floating on the water let out a sigh of relief. My days. Is this how Soups felt after being spoon-fed by the sun? Feeling the huge amount of celestial energy inside his body, aimlessly wandering around to find a way to be discharged, Jin marveled at this moment. He felt no change in his physical strength. But if he were to infuse even a single part of his body with this energy, 8 cosmic seed it is. As such, he decided to form 6 separate cosmic seeds around his body. Ding. Huh? Wait, that's not how you're supposed. Nah, let me marinate this shit. Chapter 12, Local Man Gets Spooked by Legion Commander acting like Drax standing atop a hill. Jin blankly gazed at their territory. Coupled with the fact that someone's piercing pair of green eyes fixated on him from behind, seemingly anticipating his response in eagerness. The man was simply too stunned to speak. After a while, he finally glanced back. Saber? Yes. For a moment, he felt the wind quickly brushing past him, and before he realized it, Nero stood beside him. Her lime green eyes continued to look up at him. Holy fuck. I agree. They did a great job. Not but like. Pipes, Saber. Fucking pipes. Ignoring the smug and prideful look of the Empress, Jin zeroed in on the entire rolling plains. The entire landscape, stretching from end to end, was dug out with pinpoint accuracy, while beneath the surface, a network of interconnected pipes could be seen 8 meters deep into the ground. Thousands of black dots flew around, always bringing in some kind of material from who knows fuck where. And not far away, Jin could also see a mountain heap of various materials, waiting to be mixed and used. Wait. Noticing something amiss, he looked at Nero in curiosity. I am pretty sure that concrete or asphalt ain't composed of those things, so what's the plan here? The materials he saw, although familiar, definitely weren't aggregates or binders, which were the prime materials used to form those aforementioned things. Nero also thought about it, but soon shook her head while smiling. Val said, suddenly smirking in mischief. She mimicked how the White Legion commander spoke, a trace of seriousness crossing her eyes. Knowing what was about to happen, Jin hurriedly shook his head. Wait, it ain't necessary, cough. Nero forcefully coughed, before kneeling on the ground. She put her hand over to her chest, while her other hand elegantly stretched towards him. My Empress, while the materials you have mentioned are undoubtedly integral to road construction, I hope not to appear presumptuous, but in my homeland, we have discovered a more efficient method of blending them. You see, Jin tightly closed her mouth, his lifeless eyes piercing through hers. I got the gist of it, all right? Tilting his head while smiling in a kind-hearted manner, the Empress swiftly swatted his hand away in annoyance. Praetor. Why you? Dollar store caveman wannabe. Eyes widening in shock, Jin didn't know whether he should feel proud or hurt that Nero was slowly broadening her knowledge of the art of cussing. He glanced at her once more, kneeling as well, before he spoke. Who taught you that? Who else other than you, my praetor? Huffing and pouting, she accusedly pointed her finger at him. Always mumbling nonsensical weird things in your sleep. I told you to vent it out until you pay not. And where the fuck would I find a brothel, smartass? GRR. Are you growling? Humphrey. Nero's cheeks puffed up even more, defying physics as she angrily glared at Jin. Praetor. What? Go do something. No. Cheeks deflating in defeat, Nero tiredly slumped down. I thought my shamelessness would outshame your shamelessness, but it seems your remarkable shamelessness outshamed my shamelessness. Jin wordlessly looked at the defeated Roman Empress. The fuck is you on about? Hey. Entirely disregarding their earlier scuffle, she gently looked at the confused man before her. Just. I am glad to have you as my praetor. Seeing Jin's manifestation of a question mark above his head, she shook her head in amusement. If we ever do have the time, I am going to do maintenance on you. Nah. You ain't. Oh, I will. My earlier insult at you wasn't for naught, you goofball of a caveman. He unamusingly looked at the childish behavior of Nero, rolling around in unrestrained laughter. Geez. As he scratched his head, a subtle smirk played on Jin's lips until he suddenly sensed something and turned his gaze toward. A towering 10-foot war machine, clad in gold and black armor, knelt upon the ground, blending seamlessly with its environment. Respectfully keeping quiet, it just knelt there. In silence. I seem to have inter what the foo. Is that so? Whilst listening to the recent report of Reinhard, Jin had caught some, let's say, interesting keywords. Giant golems. Rocky terrain. Inactive supervolcano. As he continued to listen, he didn't take in the fact that Nero and Reinhard were now looking at him. Praetor. Snapping out of his thoughts, he answered back. Sup. Receiving his response, she pointed at Reinhard. My praetor, Legion Commander Reinhard has requested you to help his troops out. What's the deal though? Nero looked at the Legion commander before nodding at him, gesturing him towards Jin. The war machine respectfully placed his hand over his chest, bowing slightly before also bowing towards the Neanderthal standing beside the Empress. Respected advisor, my troops and I have encountered a prominent issue that demands the attention of someone with exceptional capabilities. Therefore, I have came to seek your assistance. I hope my request will not cause you any inconvenience. To be honest, seeing a brigade commander bowing at someone like him, Jin felt a bit uncomfortable, obviously not used to being treated like he was Louis XIV's left nutsack. So to hurry it over with, he indifferently nodded before walking towards him. Not an issue, fam. But I have a favor to ask. Rest assured, if the task lies within my abilities, I am prepared to undertake it to fulfill your request. Cool. Cool. Sensing what he was about to do, Nero face-palmed in disbelief. Add that to the fact that she knew beforehand what the dumbass was about to request, she pressed her palm harder against her face. Praetor. Why is this man constantly tarnishing her non-existent dignity? Whoosh. With 3,000 mechanically engineered super soldiers following behind, Reinhardt flew at the forefront, constantly leaving sonic booms. He subtly glanced at the weird human on top of his shoulder, who had a grin that stretched across his face. Mate, this feels fucking incredible. Ignoring the constant profanities coming out of his mouth, the first in command couldn't help but ask. Respected advisor. Could this be your first time flying? Shaking his head, Jin briefly answered while enjoying the wind blasting against his body. I never flew into a mountain. Mountain? Exactly. Nodding his head, the man continued enjoying his piece. Confused about what he meant, Reinhardt decided to forget about it and asked something else he had in mind. I have heard from Valkyra that your capabilities rival those of the Empress herself. Upon hearing his inquiries, Jin decided to listen to him for now. Noting his silence as his cue to continue, the war machine proceeded to speak further. The troops' continuous praise of your abilities has sparked my curiosity. Valkyra herself claimed that you have run at approximately 193 times the speed of sound while dragging the Empress blade around, carving the earth in a blaze of crimson. This is, by all means, an incredibly remarkable feat for one made of mere flesh and bones, respected advisor. Glancing at the human on top of him, Reinhardt released a sigh filled with melancholy. I, again, on behalf of the Legion, apologize for having asked you to. However, before he could finish speaking, Jin interrupted him abruptly, casually releasing a yawn mid-flight. Bro, you know you don't have to apologize for every single thing, right? There it is again. Having finished yawning, Jin admired the view from above, his gaze capturing the fast-paced scenery below him. You know, being treated like some big shot or being put on this imaginary pedestal. As much as I dig myself, I ain't into boosting my ego like that, it's pathetic. Hearing what he said, the Legion commander seemed to have realized something. Then. The name's Jin. Well frick Jin, no need to add anything else. Well frick Jin. Absorbing the name into his databank, Reinhardt spoke with a tone he hadn't before. I see. You're that kind of human, Sir Welfrick. Brother, did you not hear as expected? Nodding as if he had understood everything, Reinhardt swiftly activated the thrusters on his back. Then, I shall not waste any more of your precious time. Boom. Chapter 13, Local man unintentionally peels back from old sleeping weirdo far away from their territory. Jin and the Legion commander, along with his 3,000 troops, had arrived at their destination. That's a lot of holes. Observing the amount of destruction present in this place, he glanced at Reinhardt. So it appears. The fight against those golems was intense, but we managed to take them down without any casualties. Yeah, I can tell, them holes big, man. Craters of various sizes occupied the entire rocky terrain, some had a diameter of more than a kilometer while others only a few meters. Moreover, Jin noticed several scorch marks within those craters, which highly suggested that there had been some intense heat blasting through the area. Walking down into one of the craters, he crouched and picked a very peculiar stone. Tossing it up and down, he nodded before crushing it into fine powder. Automaton-like beings? With a certain gaze, he subtly peeked behind his back at the 10-foot war machine. Reinhardt nodded his head, responding in approval. Indeed, when we initially arrived in this vicinity about a week ago, I registered certain tremors. Yet, despite thorough scans, my sensors failed to detect any signs of thermal activity. Thinking of something, he shot out a blue projector from his golden eyes, causing Jin's eyes to widen. That's rad. Please, take a look, Sir Wulfric. Ha. Tiredly giving up the attempt to correct the bionic being's sudden use of honorifics, he swiftly reviewed the recorded fight and found himself unsurprisingly unsurprised. What a mouthful. Seeing the giant 20-meter rock golems being taken apart like the many videos on the hub, a pondering expression appeared on his face. Reinhard understood that look as well. It seems you have come to the same conclusion, but glancing at him, the war machine spoke with a helpless tone. We also suspected it to be a triggered mechanism upon our arrival, but after thoroughly surveying the entire territory and employing our sensory systems, we found nothing out of the ordinary. He gazed towards a distant point where smoke billowed from a colossal mountain. Except for some volcanic activity a few hundred kilometers west from here, we haven't found any other reason as of yet. After he finished listening to his explanation, Jin's gaze suddenly began wandering around. Mechanism. Once more, he lowered himself, resting his hand on the ground, and closed his eyes in focus. Apostrophe. Da fuck? After a while, his eyes went wide. Holy shit. Sir Welfric? You guys. Jin's eyes went upward to see the Legion commander and the rest of the airborne troops looking down on him. You all were fighting above some big-ass illusion. How could that be? We thoroughly scanned every conceivable area, even delving deep into the ground. Some magical illusion. Everyone went silent, prompting Jin to confusingly scrutinize them. Creak yet, upon seeing Reinhard's clenched metallic hand, he decided to keep his curiosity in check. Something about that word just ticked bro off. Observing the rest of the troops, he could sense a similar tension towards the word magic. Deciding to ignore it, he suddenly dug his hand deep into the ground. I'ma need you guys to move far away, preferably. Not in the direction my hand has dug in. Understood, Sir Welfric. Not questioning his choice, Reinhard calmly suppressed the rising rage within his artificial heart, ordering his soldiers to move. Nice. Having secured the vicinity, Jin dug his second hand in and trembled with it. The earth trembled. Rocks danced in place, defying gravity's hold. The ground convulsed as if struggling to contain an unseen force. Fractures spread their way across the landscape, resembling a spiderweb. And then, with a mighty roar, double-handed table flip, colossal chunks of rock shattered and gave way, revealing Jin rising from the depths, his hand still holding onto a massive piece of land. Every single muscle, tendon, and joint worked in perfect synergy, tensed as a rod and solid as tungsten. Suddenly, Jin assumed a stance resembling a Zercher squat, utilizing his lower body to drive forward, while simultaneously bearing the immense weight of millions of tons on his hands. Tremble with one last push, he swiftly launched his hands into the air, his legs straightening out. With a thunderous sound, every piece of land within sight was catapulted into the air, slightly curving outward in an unbroken wave. Yet, for some odd reason, confusingly looking at his hand, Jin saw some kind of red liquid slowly dripping down. Blood? It ain't as though, so what's the deal here? Ding. Host, degrees. What in the actual foo? Seeing a tidal wave of red blood suddenly gushing out of the place he had torn opened, the man was fucking stunned. Wait. Sir Welfric. Feeling a presence behind him, he couldn't even respond before he was grabbed and launched into the air, leaving a sonic boom in his wake. Reinhard along with his troops swiftly blasted through the sky, going through the clouds in continuous succession, before they stopped. Now, hoisted on the war machine's shoulder, Jin was about to say something but, host. O_O grave, O. Meanwhile, emergency warnings rang out in every single soldier's mechanized system. Warning. Abrupt rise of thermal heat detected. Unknown surge of energy detected. Warning. Abrupt rise of thermal heat detected. Unknown surge of energy detected. Warning. Abrupt rise of thermal heat detected. Unknown surge of energy detected. Warning. Abrupt rise of thermal heat detected. Unknown surge of energy detected. That was all they heard. But it was understandable. After all thought ignoring the sound, a sudden gap opened up between the Legion commander's hand, revealing a spear that slowly got pushed out. The 3,000 troops also silently deployed their weapons. 1,000 with hands that transformed into plasma guns. 1,000 with hands that transformed into plasma whips. 1,000 with hands transformed into micro-sharp scimitars which shone with a dark hue under the sunlight. With unmatched tension in the air, they saw it. HRMRMRMRM. A weird grotesque sound was emitted from it, as its massive shadow overcame them, covering them in a veil of darkness. This thing continued rising above the clouds, whilst blood continued to drip down alongside what seemed to be its neck. Oh, my bad, homie. Looking at this, nay, ginormous or colossal wouldn't even be enough to describe the sheer size and monstrosity of this thing. Reinhard gripped his golden and black spear with a vice grip. System. Host. This, scan it. Yes, a partial scan is complete. I am sorry I couldn't. Nah, it's fine. Looking at its status, he had a hunch why that was the case. Name, unknown age, 20000+. Race, ancient Sky Shrieker bloodline, unknown divinity, traits, indestructible. Passive skills, near magic invulnerability. Combat skills, not available. Active skills, sky-piercing screech, claws of the damned. Miscellaneous skills, not available. Divine arcanum, gates of the damned. Overall evaluation, degrees. Having risen from its slumber, it slowly turned its head around. With an ear-dislocated jaw, its rotten teeth emitted a stolid stench of demonic-like energy. Its hollow eyes, devoid of life, appeared to drain the very essence from those who dared to meet its gaze. Its skinny form, unbefitting of its immense size, had long elongated claws that reached down like deathly talons. With a sudden, eerie movement, it twisted its gaping maw in their direction, opening them up. Move. Swiftly, everyone dispersed in opposite directions. However, the long-awaited roar did not come, but... boom. Its huge size made its roar sound like a massive quake that shook the air, scattering the clouds for miles on end. Nero proudly watched as the foundation of her empire slowly began taking shape. Looking at the blueprints, she couldn't wait to start constructing various architectural masterpieces, especially alongside her praetor. Shouldn't they be back now? It's already been hours, but huh? She cranked her neck up toward the sky, particularly the clouds. Rubbing her eyes, she scrutinized it again. Why are they in a V shape? Tracing the source, she suddenly widened her eyes. Shit. Chapter 14, Local man does illegal Muay Thai move on a weirdo, causes massive outrage among the lands. After the initial roar ended, the Legion couldn't rest before a humongous claw slashed at them. Whoosh. Dodging quickly once more, they witnessed the surrounding space tear apart as if reality itself had been distorted. Yet it didn't stop there. The claw, with endless momentum, continued going down until it reached the ground. Before the sound even reached them, they witnessed massive chunks of land being torn apart in 3 directions, stretching as far as the eye could see. And oh, it's flying towards us? While exclaiming in surprise, Jin saw the airborne pieces of remnant land masses flying toward them at subsonic speed. Having decided on something, he patted the Legion commander on the shoulder. Hey, throw me at him. Sir, well, for do it, you all will have more leeway on harvesting that. Seeing him gesture towards the closing gap between them and the enormous chunks of land, Reinhard, not questioning his weird priorities, immediately nodded and seized Jin's arm. Alright, just right at high boom. The Legion commander had maximized all the mechanical tension he could at the throw before he faced the incoming loot. Do not waste our chance. Activating all the thrusters on his body, the war machine blasted forth, along with his troops. We shall harvest the abundance of materials. Why yes, Commander? Boom. Sensing a massive rush of air from another direction, Reinhard subtly glanced at where he had thrown Jin and witnessed the colossal being's head jerk back as if struck by a whip. Observing the tiny dot making contact, he felt he could finally focus entirely on the task at hand. As the distance closed in, Jin balled up his fist. So damn ugly. Seeing its gaping maw and lifeless eyes slowly turning towards him, a sudden aversion caused him to tense his fist harder. As such, when he was face to face with what appeared to be its cheekbones, he thrust his fist forward. Whoosh. Before it could even utter its ear-piercing scream, Jin's fist had already smashed into the being's face, causing its head to whip back. Boom. Disregarding the massive shockwave that soon occurred which propelled him down towards the ground, the madman swiftly turned his body around, clapped his hands, and soared upwards once more. Boom. Not having the time to react, the ancient Sky Shrieker, who couldn't even recover from getting its face smashed in, had its head whipped upwards the second time. Boom. Being thousands of meters above, Jin clapped his hands again, causing his body to accelerate down like an asteroid. The nightmarish face, unlovable even by a mother's standards, was now strangely parallel with the ground, still reeling from the tremendous shock it had received to its jaw. And whoosh. Seeing this human speeding through the clouds towards it. In the depths of Oblivion Ion, where shadows dwell, time suddenly slowed down to a near halt. The soldiers wielding plasma whips around the scattered landmasses appeared to be moving at a snail's pace. Similarly, the surrounding debris seemed to move in slow motion, akin to being in a vacuum of space. Yet, crack in this seemingly black and white world, a singularity continued to clash with the surrounding domain. The space between the ancient sky's creature and a singular black dot appeared to ripple the stagnant air, akin to a bubble on the verge of bursting. For the first time, the colossal being, the one who is supposed to have complete authority over this domain, had one emotion creep up on its face. Fear. Crack, and with that, a crack appeared in this monochromatic world. Said singularity casually broke through the barrier with a force incomparable to before. Closing the distance in the blink of an eye, the nightmare meets a human's eyes for the first time. Annoyance. Is that really the emotion it just saw? Before it could think further, it saw the human gather all its power into one singular spot. The elbow. Muay Thai concentrated continental elbow smash, and with a downward blow. Like a flash bang, The world went blank. Whoosh. A crimson blur could be seen blasting through entire landscapes in seconds, showing complete disregard for the destruction. With a panic-stricken face, Nero frantically ran faster than she ever had before, pumping huge amounts of mana into her legs. She couldn't feel it. Their connection was cut off. The connection that Jin had persuasively made with her since day one. It was gone. Why? Please, no. This sudden sense of unprecedented fear was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Even in the face of servants she couldn't even compare to, she had never felt such dread. After all, she was Nero, the Empress of Rome, the self-proclaimed best saber servant. Yet, as a sudden thought was about to occur to her, she suddenly saw something in the distance. Completely halting her momentum, she saw a massive wall. And it seemed to be coming closer for some odd reason. What? It was at this moment that she suddenly saw something blinking at the corner of her eye. Congratulations on claiming the ancient Sky Shrieker's territory as your own. Territory, the land of the damned, can be renamed. Size, 571,023 square kilometers. Since the Lord has claimed a huge piece of territory, a sufficient reward has been granted. Ha ha ha. Not even giving a single fuck about the rewards, she closed the panel. Ha 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 ha. She laughed. Her laughter, rich with melody and genuine emotion, echoed in succession, drowning out the impending wave of doom hurtling towards her. Of course, of course. It's my breeder. Ha 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 ha. Whether it was something else, tears ran down her face. Was it happiness? Relief? She didn't care. After all, he's okay. And so, with a wave of her crimson blade, an insurmountable amount of mana rushed out, transforming into a beautiful arc of crimson that stretched as far as the eyes could see. The gargantuan wall, comprised of eerie dark energy and a chaotic chunk of debris, was effortlessly slashed through like butter. Nonetheless, the wave of crimson continued onwards, continuously cleaving through everything in its path in an upward fashion. Ha. Sunlight finally revealed itself as the surrounding darkness crumbled down. Nero could see her crimson wave still going upwards, even after having cleared the supposedly impending doom. Ha. The once loud laughter finally faded into a gentle whisper, carried away by the soft breeze of the aftermath. Gazing upward at the sky, she saw the radiant afternoon sunlight casting its warm light on her. However, in that moment, even if it was just a simple moment, a smile adorned her lips. A smile so radiant, it outshone the very sun itself. It was a smile that would have truly captivated the hearts of all of Rome. Host, you hear that? Yeah. Good, that's the sound of plundering. Lazily lying down on the ground, he watched the entire legion crazily dig out any important material they deemed useful for the future foundation of the empire. Casually overlooking the area, he subtly glanced at a mountain. Or rather, what looked like a mountain, but was nothing more than the head of the colossal nightmarish being. Shit dislocated faster than. Pondering a bit, he nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders. I ran out of words. In a nutshell, his previous elbow strike hit so hard that the head of the ancient motherfucker was torn apart before its body could even follow. How convenient. Nodding to himself, he scrutinized the main body of the giant. According to his estimation, that skinny body was at least more than a few kilometers long, excluding its head. He also noticed that its entire body consisted of different minerals. How incredibly convenient. The dude was practically a god-sent gold mine. Nice. It was nice indeed. Host. By the wa, oh hey there. Without glancing behind him, he could feel a certain someone's piercing gaze. Breeder. Sup. Can I hug you? Go for it. He suddenly felt a pair of arms wrapped around his body. Wait. I got that far? Chapter 15, Local man forces Legion commander to cut a weirdo in pieces, ons up with head on shoulders several days later. Ding. Cool down, 1D 21 hours 11 minutes host, yo. You can almost use me again. Pause. Huh? It's whatever. Okay. Sitting, or rather, in his case lying down in the same spot can be quite boring. Jin had observed the Legion troops moving back and forth countless times already, and while it was entertaining at first, the feeling of boredom soon overcame him. But, hey, they did all the heavy lifting for them at least. Oh? What about Nero? Yeah, she snored Amu. Drifted off to sleep right beside him. It hadn't even been several minutes before she began snoring in his eardrum several days ago. Besides, when the fuck did she snore? Jin could clearly remember the first time they slept together. Wait. The first time she slept with him? No. The first time they shared a space together? I give up. In a nutshell, it was something she never did. Amu. Now it's just a mix of snoring and random amus. God forbid me from having a normal nap. Gently prying himself off from Nero's embrace, he lazily rose to his feet and stretched. Crack bones popped all over, making him feel alive as he yawned. This guy. He didn't even have to glance to recognize that a certain someone was kneeling nearby. Say, you know Drax? I don't follow, Sir Wulfric. Confusingly tilting his head, Reinhard couldn't help but weirdly glance at Jin. Whatever, you got news? Indeed, I shall convey the details to Sir Wulfric, as the Empress seems to be resting. She sure is. Their attention shifted to Nero, who was somewhat peacefully sleeping as her hands awkwardly tried to latch onto something. Seeing the confused frown on her face, Jin decided to grab a sizable rock, before carefully putting it in between her grabs. Now, come again? Reinhard mentally approved of his methods, relieved that the Empress could now fully rest peacefully. Then, I shall make it short for you. From his golden eyes emerged a blue projector, displaying statistical logs, various routes, and an overview map of their newly harvested territory. Jin curiously looked over them. Whoa, that's... What caught his eye was the amount of things they took, which included various metals, minerals, and wood, as well as massive pieces of land masses for some odd reason. Yet as you can see, while we have made significant progress, the vast expanse of our newfound territory remains largely untouched. In fact, it's worth noting that the majority of our resources came from the enemy you have killed, Sir Wulfric. With exceptions such as wood and the large land masses, of course. Continuing to look over, his ears perked up at the sudden mention of that tall but skinny deceased mofo. Jin looked at Reinhard and proposed an interesting idea. Say, how about we just, temporarily leave the territory to one of our Legion friends over there, and just focus on hauling this giant ass back to base. Pointing at the massive corpse a distance away, he continued. I mean, bro's loaded with enough stuff that we could kickstart some projects, I don't know, setting up some geothermal power plants, you know, the renewable energy type stuff? Reinhard pondered over what he had said, his metallic hand touching his chin. Hypothetically speaking, for the sake of long-term benefits and continuous and sustainable growth, it would be beneficial to leave the acquired territory largely untouched and just focus on the things that can be renewed over time. So, your suggestion aligns well with this approach, Sir Wulfric. But how do we proceed? Suddenly stopping himself, he looked at Jin lazily scratching his head, those eyes seemingly carrying no thoughts whatsoever. I seem to have misspoken, my worries were unfounded. Releasing a sigh, the war machine overlooked the space above the massive corpse, eyes observing how the entire Legion was diligently working. Sir Wulfric, carrying the whole body would be quite bothersome even for you, no? Well, yes, and I could carry it for sure, but it's the way the weight is distributed, that's what makes it an annoying task. I could drag it as well, but Mother Nature ain't gonna be happy with the fucker indirectly causing mass chaos because of its size, so Jin pointed at Nero. I am waiting for her to wake up so she can cut them into pieces, that way I will have a much easier time balancing my sorry ass for what? 1,000 kilometers? Again, Reinhard thought about it before shaking his head. Waking the Empress won't be necessary. Wasn't thinking about that in the first place, so what's the deal here? Lothric will be able to accomplish said task you asked for. Confusingly tilting his head, he was about to ask who the dude was before a click went off inside of him. Oh, that Blue Knight? Yes, that Blue Knight. 8, go ask him. Whoosh. Several seconds later his afterimage disappeared from the spot, leaving nothing more than a spotless ground. Reinhard, who was left standing there, once again nodded in approval. Such immaculate control of power, as expected of Sir Wulfric. Commander Lothric, we have got news from Commander Valkyrie from the main base. What is the content of it? The blue armored war machine glanced back. The soldier, ignoring the massive chunk of compressed metal rods above Lothric's head, respectfully continued speaking. Commander Valkyrie and her brigade have completed road construction, as well as having finished the drainage system. Although they're awaiting new orders, Commander Valkyrie has made some suggestions that Commander Lothric and Commander Reinhard I see. It seems like little Val has a proposal that she wants both of us to weigh in on before bringing it to the Empress's attention. Understanding the underlying message behind her intentions, Lothric nodded. Noticing that it was his cue to continue, the soldier began spilling out the main content of the news. Amidst the construction phase, Commander Valkyrie and her brigade have installed the necessary mechanisms that lay the groundwork for electromagnetic levitation technology. Ding, the stacked steel rods fell from Lothric's hand as he dumbfoundedly looked at the soldier. Already? She's ambitious for sure, but I am sure that none of us have any installed data when it comes to more advanced technologies. Fundamentally, they were built for warfare, designed to kill, strategize, and lead. If it were one of the other units or maybe even the maintenance crew, they might have more tech data installed in them. Commander Lothric, It may be because Commander Valkyra is of a third generation of the CCW frames. Right, it seems that I have forgotten due to being locked up in that place. After releasing a weary sigh, he gestured for the soldier to continue. As previously mentioned, laying the groundwork with maglev technology, Commander Valkyra has proposed plans for renewable energy sources. Her suggestions include harnessing solar energy, as well as exploring tidal and wave energy. As sufficient as ever, to think you would already aim for a T1 civilization. Alright, if that is all, you are dismissed. Yes, Commander Lotharic. Whoosh. Looking at how the soldier flew away, the blue-armored knight was about to pick up the massive steel rods again before a sudden voice came from beside him. Solid-ass plan, bro. Respected advisor? Jin had arrived just a few moments prior, so even though he didn't get the whole gist of the conversation, he had enough clues to piece the puzzle. She's prob gonna be happy, but before that Lotharic glanced at the way he was pointing at and saw the giant corpse in the distance. I'ma need your help. Respected no need for that. Jin's fine. Jin it is then. You want me to slice this in half? In contrast to their tiny stature, they stood before a colossal hand adorned with 3 massive talon-like claws. Yeah, Reinhard told me you were the man for this kind of job. Did he tell you that? Something along the lines. Oh. Seeing Lotharic hesitate, Jin shrugged his shoulders. I mean, you could just give me, one of those fancy plasma blades. I don't mind having them, not saying like I want them, just to be clear. The Legion commander blankly looked at the human fidgeting his hands around like an anime girl. With a metallic exhale, a mechanism clicked into place, unveiling a sword-shaped recess behind his back. Nestled within, a grand blue and black blade rested within a customized metallic sheath. Afterward, Lotharic smoothly extracted the colossal sword with his right hand, its imposing form resembling a grand odachi. Damn. The blade vibrated as a violent energy surged within. Suddenly, the war machine raised the blade with both hands high up into the air, the violent energy pulsating harder than ever. Glancing at Jin fanboying over the sword, Lotharic spoke uncertainly. I will try. Though it seems to me that Reinhard has forgotten that even the best of the best can rust, so I am not entirely sure I will be able to do your assigned task. As if waiting to be released, the energy was about to leak out, but it soon came to a halt. Whoosh. Not even a second later, the sound of something being sliced could be heard. Before one could even realize it, Lotharic had already assumed a downward strike pose. Sizzle Jin looked at the massive line that ran across the entirety of the ancient Sky Shrieker's hand right up to its wrist. Akin to a cleanly cut sirloin, the colossal hand that was connected to the rest of the arm slowly fell right in front of him. He subtly glanced at the Legion commander behind him. Seeing that it worked, Lotharic released his umpteenth sigh today. Ha. It seems like I still got it. Host. You can do it, I hate this. Jin had been running back and forth for what seemed like hours. And right now, he had someone's head on his shoulders. If it weren't for the laws governing this universe, I would have fought my way to the underworld just to kill this bitch again. As he was running at high speeds across the landscapes in seconds, he noticed one of the ancient Sky Shrieker's eyeballs soullessly gazing at him, as if it was mocking his efforts. I will fucking do it again. Chapter 16, Roman Empress gets a little too devious for her own good. The divided lands. The land of the damned. Both areas were of respectable size, with the former being several times larger than Luxembourg and the latter slightly larger than France itself. And having claimed such territories within a month is an incredible feat even by the system's standards. However, there is a slight problem that came with it. The land of the damned was too much to manage at the moment. With only 9,006 people to go around, including an empress, a random hobo, a big all-overgrown puppy, 3 legion commanders, and the rest being troops, they had to get smart about how they managed things. After several hours had passed and Jin had transported all the invaluable remains of the ancient Sky Shrieker, which made the troops incredibly grateful, they returned to the divided lands. Though, Reinhard and his brigade will soon be posted in the land of the damned, only after they handle their business at the main base first. One of their main duties there will be to keep an eye on the area, just in case. Secondly, while they're overseeing the newly acquired territory, they will also be diving into a new mega project, which was greenlit by Jin himself. But what about Nero? When asked about that, Jin responded with, no biggie fam, so the Legion commanders trusted him. Well, at least Lotharic and Reinhard did. Valkyra was still unaware that her empress was respectfully snoring her ass away under a tree's canopy somewhere in their main base while a certain hobo temporarily took her place. Thus, unfortunately, as lazy as Jin wanted to be, he had to at least try being the empress' supposed advisor. Standing next to the Titan horn on top of a hill, they overlooked the newly transformed territory slowly but surely beginning to take shape. Fancy but smooth metallic-looking roads were plastered around the terrain in an organized manner, while the edge had a slight curve to it, which was probably the maglev technology Valkyrie had implemented during the construction phase. Even without the hyper-maglev technology blueprint, the fact that she had the necessary data to form the foundation made things much easier. That will come later. Looking at the information panel in front of him, he looked through all the available blueprints. Available blueprints. Blueprint of a customizable castle, available for continuous upgrades. Blueprint for advanced technological workshops, available for continuous upgrades. Blueprint for technologically advanced automated turret walls, abbreviated to TAT. Available for continuous upgrades. Blueprint for supercharged railkin towers, available for continuous upgrades. Blueprint for hyper-mag technology. Indeed. I am lost. Ding. Underscore comma you mocking me? Might me. Degrees 0 degrees, comma greater than comma okay, bro. Ignoring the continuous dings from the system, he pondered on what he could do next before an obvious thought occurred to him. His finger, which had been hovering over the transparent screen, unhesitatingly clicked on one of the blueprints. Pop. Claimed blueprint for advanced technological workshops, available for continuous upgrades. Huff. What you huffing at me for? Giving the Titan horn a side glance, he looked at his hands and wondered where the blueprint was. Hello? Jin flailed his arms around, yet to no avail. Nothing happened. The command to load up your chosen blueprint is schematics. No way. Schematics. In an instant, a massive blue pillar of light descended from the sky, gradually turning into a towering structure. The process resembled a scan from top to bottom, akin to a 3D printer in action. The rhinoceros was jumping around in what appeared to be a weird state of excitement. Why? Casting another perplexed sidelong glance, he observed that most, if not all of the troops had halted their work, curiously looking at the giant schematic coming into the real world. Lothric dropped his steel rods again, looking over like an old man seeing the latest iPhone 14. Reinhard was just being himself, staring at him while nodding in approval. Jin could already sense where his head was going with this, even in that thick data-filled brain of his. And to confirm what he had just thought about, he saw the war machine give him a thumbs up. Dude is just chill like that. And then he saw Valkyrie elegantly flapping her metallic-like wings midair, watching in silence as this scene took fold. Wait a minute. He just realized something. While letting the schematic continue loading up in the background, he couldn't but notice that he and Valkyrie hadn't even talked once. Oh well. Shrugging his shoulders, he decided to plop down on the ground while waiting. Woo-yoo-yoo-yoo. Of course, peace was never an option. Especially if you had a 1,000-ton beast next to you jumping around for no reason. Praetor. After a week of uninterrupted sleep, Nero was back in full spirits. Of course, before this, having woken up under some random mastery, she was confused and annoyed at the same time. And knowing the culprit who had placed her there, she wasted no time thinking. Just straight-up cavewoman Oingabunga type shit, as Nero dashed over and pounced on the innocent man still seated in place. Of course, having sensed her coming from a mile away, he slightly shifted his body and did a judo throw on her. While sitting. Praetor. Is that the result of the blueprint? As one can see, the madwoman was now shaking Jin around in excitement, shrugging off the impact from earlier with ease. The lad himself had already accepted this reoccurring situation. As such, with a lifeless gaze, he continued staring at the finished schematic. Yeah, it is. Jin's voice, lacking enthusiasm, made her pout slightly. Hey. Aren't you happy? About what? We haven't talked in a while. That's true. After all, the last thing she said to him was something along the lines of asking to hug him, which was shit, surprisingly more than a week ago. As such, knowing that she was speaking facts, he relaxed his body in her grasp. Hee. Giggling in contentment, Nero gently continued swaying his body around. Is it that fun? Well, I can't be seen shaking around my subjects now, can't I, Praetor? Noticing that he wasn't saying anything, she glanced at his side profile, just to see him give her that special Dwayne Johnson look. Jin's right eyebrow was raised in a suspiciously high manner. Aren't I, given my administrative name, considered your subject? Knowing where he was going with this, she gave him a sly smile. Well, Praetor is different. How so? My Praetor has this lazy vibe going on, always constantly sleeping around, and only does things when he's forced to. Boop. Feeling a slight touch on his nose, he noticed the ever-growing mischief in her eyes. Besides, Praetor is someone special, so Nero closed the distance between them, her body pressing against his from behind, as she spoke softly, her voice tinged with sensuality, near his ear. Isn't it about time you call me by my real name? Don't know what you're talking about. Feeling a pull on both sides of his cheeks, his expression deadpanned as he gave her a side glance. Oh please, As if you speaking Latin wasn't a dead giveaway. Remember? Salve, honora state, imperatrix. Slightly giggling, she continued to speak. Did you honestly believe I would forget what you told me? Eyes widening in surprise, he responded. Man, I must be living rent-free in that head of yours. That's one way of describing it. Nodding her head, Nero casually leaned ever closer to him. Her hand gently cupped his chin as she turned his face towards her. Forget what I said. Just say my name. Jin Chapter 17, Local residents seethe after seeing crack in space, assumed to be space invaders. That's a dangerous game you're playing. Looking directly at her, Jin scratched his head, seemingly oblivious to the fact that their lips were mere inches apart. Nero. As he finally uttered her name, a sudden vibrant red light shone within her irises which intensified her gaze even further than before. Yet, despite her passionate gaze, her hand continued to delicately cradle his chin, noticeably pulling their lips closer together. Ding. Host, Nero Claudius' bloodline is boiling. Degrees. Hey. And, with a grin that eerily reminded Jin of her Draco counterpart, she narrowed her eyes, tilting her head as she breathed hot air onto his face. You consider this dangerous? Then, I might as well tremble for just a moment. It seemed as if the world shook. The momentary lapse of distraction was enough to wake Nero up from her daze, prompting her to awkwardly back away from Jin. Ha ha ha. Preter. Just a joke. Copying his signature move known as the scratch or head if you're lost as fuck, the woman clumsily forced out a laugh, still feeling shocked that she almost devoured him. Mentally screaming in her mind, she subtly glanced at Jin, who seemed to be looking at the sky in seriousness. Wait, he can do that? Her preter can be serious? She soon followed his gaze and was baffled. A crack in the sky? Yeah, a crack in the fucking sky it seems. Having put their earlier tension at the back of his mind, Jin stood up, eyes squinting at the widening fissure until he noticed something. Vermins. Hearing this sudden shout of rage which surprised Jin, he couldn't help but glance in his direction. After the schematic had finished loading a few hours prior, the Legion continued working, now having a realistic 3D blueprint to scramble around with. Said blueprint contained an engineer's as well as an architect's wet dream. It was in essence, their definition of the perfect fab material. With incredibly detailed views of the advanced technological workshop's exterior and interior design, coupled with precise dimensions, scales, units as well as ratios. To the Legion, this task was as simple as killing one of the low-ranking invading troops that had ravaged their homeland. Trotting along the way, a certain blue-armored war machine observed his brigade, before calling out one of his soldiers. You. Why yes. You're doing great. Thank you, Commander Lothric. Seeing the soldier happily going about his way, while carrying several tons of reinforced and chemically mixed steel, Lothric did the same. Albeit with a load weighing more than several hundred tons. The second-in-command glanced toward the horizon, where a massive heat wave emanated from a few kilometers away. There, he witnessed a legion of black dots, each emitting lasers from their crimson eyes. Once they finished, the soldiers would extract the hot molten steel from the ground, setting it in a nearby temporary workplace they had quickly built. Ding ding ding, and with precise movements, they hammered away at the steel with their fists. As long as it works. Nodding at their praiseworthy methods, Lothric was about to fly away before he saw Valkyrie silently gazing into the distance. Releasing a sigh, he knew what this troublesome new gen warframe was thinking about. Whoosh. He vanished from his position, closing the distance between them in a single leap. Thud. Precisely. 3,314 seconds. Lothric mentally noted down the time it took for him to arrive as reference data before he walked up to Valkyrie. Little Val bonk. Glancing at the powerful blow from the advanced 8-foot war machine landing at his sides, Lothric was shaken to the core. Is this about the moniker I gave you? Surely, you're not so easily wounded, are you? Retracting her fist, Valkyrie kept her silence while gazing at the distance, or rather at the steadily developing territory. After a while, she finally spoke. Lothric. I fear for this place. Her voice was laced with an uncertain undertone. Something he was all too familiar with. He knew what this was about, yet he couldn't deny her hidden sentiments. Memories surged from a distant past, remnants of a once thriving civilization where machinery and advanced tech were the norm, whilst humans were almost extinct, yet those who endured were the most compassionate and empathetic. All gone in a war that spanned over several decades. Unironically, that conflict became the trigger of a golden age of advancements, where technology, especially in the military sector, boomed at an unprecedented rate. Yet, even then, they failed to stop them. The once mighty Legion Corps called them invaders, plunderers, or greed personified. In a way, they were almost like them, But at the same time they were fundamentally different as well. It was as if they had some kind of advantage that made them so much more dangerous than they already were. Just, what kind of force allows a world to just appear out of nowhere? Through a sudden gap in reality nonetheless? For Gaia's sake. Lamenting out loud with a sigh, Lothric glanced at Valkyra. Are you perhaps dwelling on it again? If possible, a bitter smile would have crept up on his face at the moment. Little Val, a human once said to me that nothing lasts forever. How nothing endures indefinitely, be it through conflicts, divine intervention, or other uncontrollable factors. Placing his hand on her shoulder, he looked up into the sky. All of us, whether it's you, Reinhard, the Legion, or me for that matter. Every single one of us wants nothing more than to eradicate those pests. Then feeling a sudden tremble that rang through the entire planet, they saw something amidst the skies. Or more specifically, a gradually widening fissure that continued to spread throughout within the vacuum of space. Vermins. Vermins. The planes shook as a roar-filled rage bellowed out. Reinhard could be seen in the distance, glaring at the skies with unprecedented fury. Around him, a golden plasma-like energy crackled, manifesting the intensity of his anger like never before. Warning. Extraterrestrial source detected. Warning. Extraterrestrial source detected. Warning. Extraterrestrial source detected. Warning. Extraterrestrial source detected. Ignoring the constant alarm blaring through their auditory system, Valkyra clenched her fist, the metal creaking as the pressure increased. So, it appears that the devil listened to our lamentations. Glancing beside she saw Lothric being unusually calm. Lothric? Val. And there she saw it. The distinctive blue glow of Lothric suddenly started to shift into a hue of ominous, deep purple. However, before the change could truly happen, he somehow suppressed it, yet the intensity in his gaze hadn't changed. Remember, the fissure and the bridge. Both took several months to form. I shall ask for a meeting with the Empress and respected advisor. You come with me. With a tone that left no room for question, Lothric soon blasted off into the distance, his form turning into a streak of blue light. Whoosh. Meanwhile, a golden-colored light soon followed in the same direction. Valkyra stood in place, remembering that form. Right. Shaking off those useless thoughts, she flew off as well. At an unknown place. A singular eye could be seen illuminating the depths of the vast ocean. A place so deep and dangerous, that it was deemed uninhabitable by many millions of years ago. Said eye was wide open, spanning hundreds of meters effortlessly. Countless marine creatures, spanning a radius vast enough to encompass the entirety of the Pacific Ocean, froze in place as if petrified by the emergence of a colossal entity awakening from its slumber. It continued to gaze at something or rather a certain someone, whilst seemingly unbothered by the distance between them. Exceptionally weird. With that it closed its eyes again, entering another long slumber. Chapter 18, Roman Empress prepares for war, before leaving local man alone to babysit. Attention. Imminent war looms on the horizon. A distant lord from a neighboring faction across the cosmos has set their eyes on your territory. Will you surrender your world, your resources, and your troops? Or shall you stand firm, confront their advances, counterattack, and seize what belongs to them in retaliation? The choice is yours to make, chosen lord. You see this shit? With an incredulous expression etched across his face, Jin had read this message several times already. First of all, you can attack other lords? Bro. Ding. I am as confused as the host. After a month in this new world, he had forgotten that the system, or some random overpowered being for that matter, had mentioned the existence of several other lords alongside him. As such, it shouldn't have come as a surprise to him, right? Well. Color him fucking surprised, cause he didn't know they were playing Lords Mobile. Goddammit. Hand cradling his chin, a pondering expression appeared on his face. Meanwhile, Nero stood beside him, looking over at the panel with an expression similar to his. Praetor. What? This is bullshit. I agree. Observing the continuously swaying Aoja drop her head, it became evident that she was likely. Well, there she was, already pouting and huffing. War it is. Wait, Nero's finger was a mere touch away from confirming the start of a planetary-scale war. Fortunately, Jin had already grasped her wrist beforehand, hard enough to prevent her from moving, but gentle enough not to hurt her. We need to consider their opinions as well. Having felt three distinct presences approaching their location at a fast pace, he looked down at her just to see her unblinkingly stare at him. Breather? Upon noticing the dreamy expression on her face, accompanied by the swirling, vibrant red hues in her lime-green irises, he bonked her head. Oi, snap out of it. Jeez, be more gentle, Praetor. Maintaining a deadpan expression, he released her wrist, ignoring her accusatory and hurtful gaze as he remained in position while waiting for the arrival of the 3 Legion commanders. Still pouting from the bonk she had received, Nero plopped down onto the ground before looking up at him. She patted the patch of grass beside her. "Come sit with me. Greetings to the Empress and the respected advisor. You may rise." Having gone from sitting to standing, Jin watched as the three war machines stood up from their kneeling position. Lotharic, who stood in the middle, came forth and slightly bowed. "My Empress, the phenomena occurring in space. I am certain that it has caught your attention." "I am aware of that." Hands crossed under her chest, Nero patiently waited for Lotharic's input on the situation. Despite the obvious turmoil happening within him, he slowly spoke out. "Then, might I humbly request the opportunity to present a proposal?" Upon recognizing her questioning look, Lotharic glanced back at his fellow commanders, finding them nodding in confirmation. He looked at Nero and finally began to speak. "My Empress, I implore you to consider halting construction and redirecting our efforts towards defensive measures. These invaders are unpredictable and powerful. I ask you to allocate all available manpower to bolster our aerial defenses, and how do you plan to do that?" Hands still crossed under her chest, Nero squinted her eyes. "While we lack the precise data to replicate our homeland's defensive air defense systems, I am certain. No, we are confident in our ability to analyze past designs and develop a simplified rendition." Looking surprised, she decided to ponder something before looking at Jin. "Vertical bar breeder, what do you think?" Vertical bar, feeling her thoughts transmitted through the spiritual connection he had, encouraged her into on day one, back when he had to explain their whole deal, he replied. "Air defense systems will always be proven effective, it's an undeniable fact." Vertical bar but. Nero glanced at him, fully aware that there was always a catch behind every seemingly good thing. Vertical bar but. Here comes the neat and obvious part, we got magic and unknown variables. Vertical bar oh. I understand now! Vertical bar wait, I didn't even explain. Vertical bar, feeling their connection cut off, he blankly glanced at Nero, proudly smiling at him before looking back at the confused Lotharic. "Well, apologies for the extended silence, Commander Lotharic. Does the Empress consider my proposal impractical?" Reinhard and Valkyrie glanced at each other, still silent and patiently awaiting an answer. "Not really?" Tilting her head, Nero put a finger on her lips as if thinking of something before continuing to speak. "Rather, your idea would work under a specific circumstance, provided we knew exactly what we were facing. However, our current situation demands otherwise. My Empress, we have faced them before." As Lotharic was about to rebuke, Nero suddenly began to bombard him with one question after another. However, who's to assume that our enemies mirror those who have destroyed your world? Who's to presume that our foes aren't of an entirely different caliber? Your simplified rendition of your homeland's air defense system, say, might work, but what do we do in the event of absolute neutralization of the system? Lotharic was at a loss for words. He knew she was right. Sure, they have dealt with these invaders before. But as Nero mentioned beforehand, were they really that certain that they would be dealing with the same enemy that had screwed them over prior? Besides, having heard her mention that there were variables in play, promptly suggested that she knew they had little knowledge of their enemy. Apostrophe. Just as he was about to speak, he heard her sigh. "Lotharic, I know. Your grudge runs deep, and not just with you. However, in times of war, I would like to think that we both know the importance of gathering intel as well as keeping a lid on our emotions. But does that mean I am suggesting we discard your existing knowledge? No, never. Yet, considering our rather limited options, we need to make do with what is within our scopes of reason." Nero's eyes suddenly shone with an emerald and red hue, her voice taking on a more imposing tone. "I will put forth all the manpower into the construction of the blueprint my praetor has brought forth." "My Empress, why, you may ask?" A smirk suddenly crept on her face as she gestured towards Jin. Suddenly feeling several pairs of eyes on him, he scratched his head. "You all want upgrades? Ding. 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 So, you guys use plasma?" "That is correct, respected advisor." "Only plasma?" "Yes." "Oh." As they watched the entire Legion putting forth all their efforts into creating the massive advanced technological workplace, Jin was. Well, he was in an awkward situation. Nero had the brilliant idea to suddenly leave him alone with this block of ice known as Valkyrie, while she went to continue discussing plans with Lotharic and Reinhard. As for why Valkyrie wasn't with her? The hell was she thinking? He face-palmed. "To get more acquainted with her, she says. It will be easy, she says. She's outgoing, she says." Well, that was a fucking lie. Subtly glancing at the new Gen war machine, he noticed that Valkyrie was on the shorter side of the commanders, standing only 8 feet tall. Even then, the poor man was still considered a midget in front of her. Whatever, I am bored anyways. Yo, wanna see something cool? Yes. She gave him a confused tilt of her head. Hey. Host. Wait, host. Host. Cool down. 2 hours 54 minutes. Chapter 19. Local man being the local man he is, decides to be chill like that, while war is moments away. That crack sure is getting big, huh? Host. Looking up at the widening gap in the night sky, he could see a massive planet slowly but steadily squeezing through. Meanwhile, at the forefront of both their planets, shimmering particles of rainbow-like light acted as a bridge, gradually solidifying over time to connect their worlds. The first few days with the crack appearing and all, one couldn't even see the bridge, but now. Hey, how long has it been again? A bit over 2 months, I reckon. Damn, that's quick. Yes. Casually sitting on Valkyrie's metal shoulder, he continued admiring the night sky, while occasionally swinging his legs. The war machine elegantly flapped her wings while also stargazing in silence. This feels nice. Closing his eyes, he thought back on what they did today. After their very hard but productive day of constantly working and making the blueprint come to life, the Legion had finally completed its first mega project after 2 months. And during this time, Jin hadn't slept at all. This certainly warrants a celebration. Fuck it, why not mark this occasion with a special holiday in the future, commemorating the day when the lazy hobo finally decided to be productive, for once. Day 27th of the whatever calendar. I most certainly deserve this break, without a doubt. No. I beg your pardon? Seeing a pair of red-crimson eyes subtly glancing at him, Jin innocently blinked his eyes, a wrong-looking look on his expression. Valkyrie didn't know what to think at all at the moment. These 2 months of hanging out and flying around with this human had really gotten her thinking about a bunch of stuff lately. And it wasn't only her. The guy would just pop up out of thin air, scaring the ever-living shit out of the soldiers, before casually asking one of the Legion commanders to chill with him. And every now and then, he would even pitch in with the construction work, which once made Nero gasp in surprise. My praetor can't be this hardworking, I demand him back. Where is Hutch? Valkyrie could still vividly remember the way this man just causally bonked the Empress head in broad daylight. Back in her days, that shit would have gotten someone executed. Her past emperors and empresses were never this laid back, so what the fuck is up with those two? The only time she ever really got serious was on the day they got summoned when Reinhard thought he was him, only to get bent over real quick. I am lost. Watching Jen casually humming a tune whilst he had decided to make her shoulder his go-to spot for the past few months, she had already given up. Releasing a worn-out sigh, Valkyrie unconsciously shrugged her shoulders. Whoa, you just shrugged? That's awesome. Apostrophe. Am I adopting his mannerisms? Host, yo. Why? Art. You. Using. Me? Negation, future investments, dear system. Ding. 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 I dare you to do that again. Or what, host, I won't talk to you. Hey, you a good system. Opening parenthesis closing parenthesis. Geez. Jin shook his head, quickly wiping off the subtle smile crossing his face, before looking at the towering structure before him. Praetor. Yet, that couldn't even last for a moment before a certain Amu Empress pounced on him from behind. As he felt a pair of hands encircling his body, he glanced to his side, only to find Nero cheekily popping her head out. Hi. A warm and gentle smile adorned her face. Sup. So. What do you think? Awesome, all I can say, for real. Whilst conversing with her, he glanced at the futuristic-like building almost rivaling that of the Empire State Building in terms of height, but way wider and with a semicircular shape. Nonetheless, even if it was a structure of that size, it wouldn't have taken the Legion, especially with all 9,000 of them working together, that long. But to think this was only a set. No kidding. I was really surprised to see it turn into a multi-building complex. Both of them observed as soldiers flew out from the main building in front of them, heading towards the smaller adjacent buildings. Haha. As if having thought of something funny, she laughed while leaning her head on his shoulder. I still remember the reactions on their faces when they suddenly saw another set of schematics pop up. Mimicking them, a sudden vibrant crimson light shone out of her eyes. They went like this. Well, he had quite frankly overlooked that part. Oops. Let me guess, did one of the guys fall face flat into the ground? Have you familiarized yourself with that particular individual? Curiously glancing up at him, she saw a somewhat complex look. Yeah. He's a good guy. Talked with the dude a few times and learned that they don't have names, only those higher up in the military rankings had that privilege. Bitterly smiling, he looked down at Nero. Something along the lines of vertical barrow, the reason, Sir Welfrek? Well, you see, we're just cannon fodder, and cannon fodders don't need to be remembered. That's just how it goes. But you know what? I am okay with that. I truly believe we all have a purpose, no matter how small. Do you see that building over there? We put it up using your blueprint. Now, isn't that a sense of purpose ? Vertical bar that. It left a bitter taste in my mouth, but it's also nice in a way. Ah. Noticing that the atmosphere had gone awkwardly silent, Nero decided to stare away from the topic. Peep reader. Have you noticed something else? She released her arms from around him and tiptoed in front, casually taking hold of his hands in the process. You mean that big-ass thing in the distance? Over to the west from here? It's directly linked to a vast network of satellite dishes across the divided lands, which will greatly bolster our strategic advantage in this war. Jin squinted, looking at a massive disc-shaped structure atop a hill, its form emphasized by a rod-like extension jutting out at a 45-degree angle, whilst framed against the backdrop of distant mountain ranges. Wait. His eyes suddenly widened. A fucking telescope. Bingo. To stalk them. Bingo. Who came up with that? Suddenly seeing her pointing her finger behind him with a shit-eating grin, his eyes suddenly went dead. He imagined some Elden Ring boss music running in the background of his mind, as he robotically turned his head around and saw. Oh, for fuck's sake. Observing the golden armored war machine kneeling in ominous silence, he noticed him slowly raise his head. Indeed. It was I, Legion Commander Reinhard. Jesus Christ. Oh, I know him. Jesus. Congratulations on fully completing the schematic for the Advanced Technological Workshops. Unlock new functions. New. Inside, the Lord can utilize the automated machinery to enhance troops with a maximum affinity for this procedure. New. The Lord can assign subjects to research new weapons and armor or upgrade specific parts, benefiting beings beyond just machines. New. Now, when the Lord desires to upgrade the Advanced Technological Workshops with the required materials, there's no need to rely on subjects for renovation. Simply click the Present Infrastructure button, where an upgrade option will be available. Upon doing so, it will be done in an instant. No cooldowns. After taking a look at the massive cock structure, also known as the Near Planetary Observation Scope, or in layman's terms, a big ol' telescope, Jin headed back solo, leaving Nero, Lotharic, and Reinhard to continue to handle their things. Now, back to sitting on top of Valkyrie's shoulder, he had just read the notification he had received and was not really that surprised. Besides, he had more pressing matters to attend to. Why is that damn rhino not waking up? Your definition of a rhino seems to have been skewered, respected advisor. Deadpanning at her remark, he looked down at her, carefully analyzing the titan horn who peacefully slept under a tree's canopy. You implying that you all have rhinos? Yes, 45,342 of them. Should be 0 now though. I am sorry. Apology accepted. Noticing the icy tone, he couldn't help but awkwardly scratch his head. Oops. Yo, chill. Why are you shrugging?